pass is complete to Clayton. First down and then some. Goodbye, Mark Clayton. To the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Incredible.
This is 365 Sports.
Motion by Oliver. Lucky will go the other way on the option. Pulls it down. Touchdown, Aggies.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
McNabb, straight back. Left side, he's all alone. It's a touchdown. Conrad. A defensive breakdown, and Conrad was all alone. He goes into the end zone for the second touchdown. Nobody was over there.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Maurice Claret is the tailback. On the single back. He's got it. He's got a touchdown.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Hello, end zone. Won't catch it. LaMichael James. And ladies and gentlemen, right now, this young man is a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on 365 Sports, and a few thunder bumpers that are blowing through our area. Nice, good, healthy rain. Hopefully, wherever you are, you're dry. And, of course, we know that the springtime weather in Texas, who knows what might happen. David Smoak with Paul Catalina. Craig will be here. Remember, he was out a couple of different days, about 2-3 weeks ago. The dental work, I think he's having a crown put in or replaced. So he'll be here when he gets here. Garrett Ross is here to run the mothership. And then, of course, Andrew Valade, who's already got a couple of polls we'll put up in the chat room and also get the results at the end of the show. And Emery Winter working on, once we get started, what we'll have tonight on 365 Sports on the local CW. So I was sitting there kind of just minding my own business here and did a lot of work today on the annual Academic All-Stars program that we have to give 20 student athletes some money, and also the best part, recognition for what they do both as students and athletes, because remember, there is that term called student athlete that I sometimes think we forget. So I got a lot of that work done. Paul and Amanda and part of the Waco Foundation, a part of making sure we have the 20 best. But then I saw this story. Kirk Bowles, now with the Houston Chronicle. I didn't get a chance to dig much into this about, is this getting overblown or not? Who wants to be a millionaire? The story, and I saw where Football Scoop, among others, picked up on this, that the budget for next year's Texas team, the roster, currently sits somewhere between 35 and 40 million. This is the budget. Now, about 20 and a half of that, of course, is going to be what they expect to be the House settlement with the revenue sharing, and what should be at 20.5. So then you're talking about 15 or 20 million. 15 million wouldn't surprise me. But when you see that number of 35 to 40 million, it kind of does take your breath away. And that doesn't mean that there aren't others that are right in that same neighborhood. Is this because the settlement's about to hit and so people are front-loading deals? Or is this because there's no way, I don't even care if you are God, that you can continue year after year to do 35 or 40 million?
I think this is probably a little bit front-loaded. I think that, and look, it's these things, especially since you're not, this isn't like TV funded like the NFL is 100% or the gate. This would be like if Jerry Jones is like, listen, I'm going to put up $80 million for the roster. And you guys, the fans, are going to put up the other $20 million directly from you to me, not ticket sales or anything. I'm going to call you up and go, Paul, I need $1 million to put towards the running back that you keep saying you want. And then I do that. So these big donors are essentially owners in the team, but in a professional sense, right? That's what they would be. So if Texas, say they rattle off an 9-3, 8-4 season, that $20 million that comes from the collective might go down a little bit.
No, they're not spending this. They're spending the money to get the best players they possibly can because they have the money. And they're about to have another 20.5 that's coming in the settlement. But after a while, you want results.
Yeah, so if they go 9-3, they might tell him, like, listen, the budget was 40 last year. It needs to be 30 this year. You need to maybe find some more developmental guys, some diamonds in the rough, as opposed to, like, just outbidding everybody. So I don't know. Like, I think it's going to be in flux. By the way, if it's $40 million, you know what the Florida Marlins, a professional baseball team, you know what their payroll is this year?
I'm going to say 30.
It's $69 million.
Oh, okay.
The minimums have gone up.
The Marlins at times, the Twins, some franchises have done that.
I just read an article yesterday about how they're playing the Dodgers this week, and the Dodgers payroll is $476 million. There's a $69 million. Obviously, that's a chasm. And I think just by comparison, we're going to see similar type chasms in college football because of things like this. And it's not all bad. It's not all good either, though. So, I mean, it's just, who can keep pace? That's why there needs to be just some more, like, look, I know that, like, they want to preserve this amateurism thing, but there need to be some concessions all the way around that we are not even dealing. It's not just a little bit different. We're not even dealing with the same things
anymore. Who wants to preserve?
The NCAA. I mean, like, so by saying that there's no,
that ship has sailed.
The saying that it's still amateurism and saying that is semantics at this point. And eventually they're going to need to admit, like, no, this is now maybe a profession. Like, I don't know any amateurs that get paid $1 million to do something.
Oh, I don't.
Other than, like, if you call, here's the thing, they call Olympic athletes, or they used to, Olympic athletes were amateurs, but watch the U.S. gymnastics team and tell me those people are not professional. Like, no. Yes, they're professional.
You know why the United States started to allow their Olympic athletes to get paid? Because other countries were doing it and found it was no longer like verboten. So all of a sudden, well, hell, they were still winning a lot with regular, what were true amateurs. Yeah. And they don't like losing.
But, so
the United States doesn't like losing. Nobody does.
Yeah. Like, if you're not going to keep to the whole, these are not paid professional athletes. All right, well, then we're going to do that. That was that was what the dream team was the signification of, which I think initially was meant to be.
Absolutely was.
I think initially it was meant to be like, we're going to do this once, and then you guys will all see what we're talking about. And then it was just so wildly successful. They're like, that was a great idea. Let's do that for everything. Yep. So they just open it up across the board. And
all right, is this a one-time thing, or is this continue? I think it's going to stay this way.
They'll be continuously that. I would say that the difference might be, with Arch Manning at quarterback and all the money that they're spending all across the roster that doesn't come from revenue share. Like, so 20.5 million from revenue share. Then the other 20 million, if it's all the way to 40, comes from the collective. The collective is the thing that will fluctuate.
Well, but in this article, and this was part of Kirk Bowles, he does 9 good things or whatever it's called. Figures in the one-time exorbitant expense because A.D. Chris Del Conte and others have said the school plans to phase out its collective in favor of the revenue sharing via the House settlement and with the move to name, image, and likeness payouts through corporations. It's just unsustainable, said a source. Somebody quoted it was Del Conte. He didn't say that. Maybe he did. But a source telling about the high payouts the next season after this year, the whole world will be back to reality. But if you get that honey, man, you get that taste, you get that crackhead mentality, meth of winning, and you pay for it and you win, it'll be interesting. Head coach Steve Sarkeesian, who applauded Quinn Ewers for not taking money from the Texas One Fund, although the Texas source said he got some but paid the bulk of his money through corporations. But I don't know. Can GXG, one of our great sponsors, how much longer will they be able to go? I've been told they're going to be okay, but it's not just automatic that they're just going to start like they had to rebuild the basketball roster or keep the players in football and then even add some with others that teams around the country will have. So that's 35-40. When I first saw that, I kind of giggled, and then I realized, no, and if I promise you, the first thing I thought about, that's not the right number. It might be the number based on the settlement money, but that's half of the number, the $20.5 million. Let me ask you, and I don't care if you're a Texas, a Georgia, Ohio State, Texas Tech, any fan, whether you have the money or you don't, do you like the way the game is being played now? Is winning what is you want to scratch that itch? Because obviously some schools have stepped up better than others. Some are probably contemplating, man, I don't know if we can do this another year or two. And then again, you have to. All the resources you've put into facilities, stadiums, all of this. And now you've got $20.5 million to spend that is at your disposal. Now you can say, I'm going to spend $15 million of it. Or you could say $20.5 million, it's going to be broken down like 80, 90% football, a little bit men's basketball, then even smaller doses for everybody else. I don't know. I don't know if my mind would change if the school I liked was really good and they were just wanting to continue to win, or if it's a school that has not won much and they're trying to win, or you're kind of in the middle and you don't know what the hell you're doing. Okay, for your school, Nebraska, for the one you're a fan of, they're trying to buy their way back in, right? That's kind of how it is. They did with Raiola. No, but you are. So if you think of it like a poker game, they were up big in the 90s, right? And then they lost. And now there's a way for them to buy back into the tournament, right? So all these teams are trying to buy back in. The problem is that the ones who didn't go bust, who just were able to, hang at the table for a little while and, still had money and they were never really worried about it, like Texas. As soon as they got their hot hands, right in a row and went on a heater, then here they are. So you've got to get back in. You've been out for longer than they have, right? It's been 20 years for Nebraska. It's only been like a decade for Texas of being out of it, or 12, 13 years before they really got relevant again, between 2009 and 23. And when Sark showed up in 21, they had under 500, but then since. It was a decade. So it gets harder and harder. And because there's no competitive balance, because there's not a league like the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, with a union and a collective bargaining agreement, revenue sharing, and all those things, amongst the teams, luxury taxes or whatever. The $20.5 million is going to be continual. No. Yeah. So no. What I'm saying is, because there's not that. Well, Texas will spend 20.5. Some schools won't be able to put all 20.5. They might have to put 15. Right. Yeah. And then the other $5 million has to go to other things so they can keep those balanced. So it's all different. But when I say revenue sharing, I mean amongst the actual teams, among each other, no matter the Dodgers and the Marlins share the TV money equally. Texas and the SEC teams don't share the money equally. They do share it equally, but then the Dodgers have the advantage of the regional network. Exactly. So they have money and they have better owners and a fan base that goes to games, all those things. But when you come to college sports, because there's way more teams, there's these big conferences now, and they share equally in their conferences, but they're still playing each other and not in the NBA, they have the luxury tax, right? And they have those thresholds. Well, if this was the NBA, Texas would be at the luxury tax. The Dodgers are at the luxury tax in Major League Baseball, but because there's no luxury tax in college football, not yet. There's no competitive balance. And you wonder if they'll do that. And I don't think they will. I don't think there's a way to do it in the way that it's set up right now. But those are the things that they've done to let a team like the Cavs all of a sudden be good again, after a few years. If not, you would have owners going I'm just not going to spend that. Well, the luxury tax eventually makes teams have to rebuild, and do those things that's not happening. The Dodgers, though, have this money every year because of the extra money they get, not just from the network for the Major League Baseball, but the regional money. It's just the way it is. It's part of the deal. It's like some people live in mansions and some don't, right? And is it sustainable? I'm not going to say no, because I never thought it would get to this point in the first place where it got as high as it was. And what would be interesting is for all these schools that have spent this extra money or think that it's there, committed to it, and the house settlement doesn't happen, then don't you then have to write $20.5 million you have to pick up because you've already pretty much spent that money? It depends. I don't know if that's even the case or not. But, okay, so there's that story. I think that and Kirk Bowles is the one that wrote it. I invited him to come on the show. He has not been able to get back with me yet, so I'm not sure if we'll get him or not. But that doesn't mean they're the only one. But it wouldn't be surprised me if they're on. There's no doubt that they would be on that list of, what do you think, 12, 15 schools? Not the 20.5. I think a lot of people are going to do 20.5. I think a ton of schools will do the 20.5 because they're going to do 20.5. Yeah. That's a mandate. How many do you think on top of that will be able to then also continue to spend an extra 15 or 20 million to supplement that?
25 at most.
I think so. I think that's even high.
I mean, that means that, some good things happen over the next couple of years, as far as when Texas went through the drought, they have the history we know. And part of the reason I say 25 at most is we've got these massive conferences now. So, if you're
you have 18, you have what? How many in the Big Ten? 18?
Yeah.
And there's 16 in the SEC. There's 34 teams that are getting a bucket load of money.
Now, look, were their collectives or whatever they're going to do spend that? If they don't care, look, if Northwestern doesn't care enough about it, they probably won't raise that money for that. But if you tell me that all 16 teams in the SEC will spend, 10 million plus to supplement the 20.5, I'll believe that. And if you told me that, 8 of the teams in the 16-team Big 12 will spend 10 million to get to that, I would believe that. If you told me that, probably 8 of the teams in the ACC would too. So now we're at more than 25. Now, how many of those spend it effectively, and how many of them are like at the strip club just throwing dollar bills onto the stage at anything, right? That's, I think, the difference is who's going to be effective with it. Like Texas has been very effective with their largesse for football in the last couple of years. They haven't just gone in, and I think they learned their lesson from before because they got fat and happy on recruiting, and they would just go, well, this is what the recruiting rankings say, and we're going to recruit, we'll give these 15 guys in the portal. Since they're the top 15 guys in the portal, we're just going to go money whip them. They don't do that. They go and find guys that fit.
Well,
and then money whip them.
I think the NIL, and Texas fans can get real defensive here, but I think NIL probably gave them a 1 or 2 year. It would have taken another year or two.
It was like a turbo. It's like a turbo boost.
Yeah, like I'm driving that Dodge Charger that is unbelievable from Allen Samuels right now.
It hit the NOS.
Yep.
Yes.
And I think it gave them a little bit of a boost. That doesn't mean that's the reason that they were winning, but it sure didn't help.
Okay, so look at one of their biggest rivals, Texas A&M. It didn't give them a boost. I mean, they're able to do it, but they're still the same as they've always been.
It's like NFL teams that go have this huge free agent spending. And are they doing that because of names or because it fits?
Yeah. What is difficult to admit for people who don't like Texas is that Texas knows how to win and do things, and then they get out of their lane occasionally. But when they get the right people in place, they know how to do it. I think that's the difference between Texas and A&M is that A&M's never figured out how to do it within their own space. So they're just borrowing ideas from everybody else, as where Texas kind of invented some of this, right? They're the ones who really pushed it down. So when it comes to making big money decisions, because they've always been big money, they know exactly what they're doing.
All right. Craig is here. He'll join us here in just a second on the set. But we've discussed that story. Kirk Bowles is the one that had it in the Houston Chronicle. Who wants to be a millionaire? And whether or not, and I'm sure that there will be a little extra boost because it's UT and people like to look at them as the one who's trying to eat up everybody. They're getting it done because they can. And then on top of that, the 20.5 is a part of that 35 to 40 million. If we can get Kirk lined up, which we still can't get a response from him, and that's okay, we may not, then we could get into that just a little bit longer. All right, some other stories today. Craig, you want to have anything to say about it? How you feeling?
You just got here 10 seconds.
Don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, I thought you had your headsets on. About the story, Kirk Bowles saying that Texas, their roster this year, including the supplement or the settlement, could be as high as $35 to $40 million. And is it sustainable? He had a source that said, of course, that's not possible.
I don't believe that. It's absolutely sustainable. What are you talking about? I think that's Probably something they want to say so that they get people to feel like they need to pony up more money to keep it sustainable. But I don't believe for a second that they can't swing that. So, yeah, I don't buy that. I think they're one of the few teams now. Like, is it smart business to spend $35-40 million every year? I mean, if you're knocking on the door of the national championship game 2 years in a row, I think you're going to keep spending. You're not going to suddenly go, you know what? We've finished in third, fourth place the last 2 years.
We gave it a run.
Now we have Arch Manning. You know what, though? We're going to cut our budget on the roster by about $10 million, Sark. Sorry, pal. We're just going to – we got close, and that was fun, but now we're going to take a step back probably because we're not going to spend the money. Spare me. They're going to spend the money. And
that's what this is about with Arch and the people around him, right? Yeah.
So, I don't buy that that's not sustainable.
And it's not, by the way, just to point the finger at Arch, we know he makes a lot of NIL in different ways, but the budget itself is what Kirk Bowles was reporting. Sustainable or not, most likely I think that would probably eventually, even if you have the biggest, largest well of money, that probably eventually won't taste as good. Incarnate Word running back Decalen Taylor is transferring to Colorado to play for the Buffaloes. Now, this is an interesting story. He played at Longview High School. Garrett, did you know that? Played at Longview, had some really good numbers at Incarnate Word. He now will play for Colorado in the Big 12. Last year, had 1,358 all-purpose yards, 9 touchdowns, former wide receiver, former baseball player, and now he is in the Big 12 with Colorado.
Yeah, another Incarnate Word player that's been very good. I mean, with 900 yards, I think last year at several touchdowns.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, so so he's there now. The biggest thing about Colorado in their running game is can they get better up front? And I know that they picked up an offensive lineman today from Tennessee named Larry Johnson's got 6'7", 350, but can they come together and actually have a running game? They're going to need one for sure because they don't have some of the guys there that bailed them out last year.
It's not that they haven't had running backs who can run. Like you said, nowhere to go. Dylan Edwards, McCaskill, who came from Houston, and now he's like somewhere else, in 2 or 3 schools. Right? So it's not like they haven't had running backs, but this one here is now Decalen Taylor from Longview and Incarnate Word is now with Colorado.
Yeah, Elton McCaskill, I really loved him as a player when he was at Houston, and then he decided to transfer to Colorado, and he's on his third school since then. Went to Arizona State last year, thought he maybe would be healthy and do something there, didn't do much, and now I guess went back into the transfer portal again. He said Sam Houston is where he ended up. I
think so.
I'd never even kept track.
I saw it just the other day. So
yeah, so I mean he's fallen off my radar basically at this point. But that's a nice pickup on paper. I mean, all these different transfers, man, it's really hard to like have if they're not like a big name, it's really hard to know what the expectations should or could be for guys. But he had a nice season a year ago, and I am very intrigued by Colorado just in general. I know that all this talk the last couple of weeks has been about the draft and the guys that aren't there anymore, except for the head coach who is. But I do think it's going to be fascinating to see them post Shedeur and Travis Hunter and what that looks like. And do they have a more well-rounded offense? I don't know. I don't know what to expect with 2 huge question marks suddenly gone from the program. But, nice pickup, I suppose, on paper.
Paul's got a couple of notes that we don't have that we put up as Twitter-type stories that we peel off there every day. We do have this one, Akeem Williams. Paul, he went to Florida State, correct?
Yeah, he had a couple years there, never really broke out, was one of several wide receivers, but he is Mike Norvell's lone 5-star signee.
Oh, I thought they got 3 to 4 a year.
No, that's why it's peaks and valleys. Yes, Craig, I agree. And so do most of the citizens of Tallahassee, Florida. But he's gotten 1 5-star guy. Now, about every 5-star guy visits there and has a good time, I guess, but then doesn't go there. They're like the Dallas Mavericks of the, of the early 2000s, where people would go and say they're going for the income tax and then sign with the friggin' Lakers anyway. But he is going to Colorado to play with Deion Sanders. And this will be interesting for Caden Salter, Juju Lewis. He's got a lot of talent, and he looked good at times, but he could never really break into the rotation. The quarterback play was not that great. Was terrible last year. The offensive line play was bad, and then they brought in a couple transfers, and now he's gone. So
we'll
see.
He played for a bad team, right?
Yeah.
He played for a bad team. He had
Awful,
16
terrible.
catches for
Might
187
as well shut
yards.
the program down.
Yeah, well, and look,
God
and then
awful.
his freshman year, he was playing with a team that had
a lot of studs.
Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and those guys on it. So, but he got pushed off the depth chart here in the spring, and I kind of thought he was a lock for it, but he's on his way to play for Coach Prime.
All right, so they get a couple of recruits. That's from the notes with Colorado. Darian Lewis, defensive back from Akron, Paul, to West Virginia.
Yes, he's one of 3 players to sign with West Virginia today. Had a good run at Akron, 3-year starter, so he comes with experience. They also picked up 2 different offensive linemen from Mississippi State. He's a linebacker. John Lewis is a linebacker. He was at Mississippi State. He had transferred to UNLV earlier this offseason. Was only there in the spring. And then a similar situation from Mississippi State. Offensive lineman Carson Lee was at Eastern Michigan. He made the last 2 years made starts at center, right guard, and left guard the last 2 years. Was a top 10 player available in the portal. So kind of a haul today for them. And then one more portal note that I just got before the show. Craig will like this one. Jermichael Carter, wide receiver from McNeese State, has committed to Oklahoma. 6'4", 190. Big, long, lanky guy. Was one of the more sought-after guys that was
in fact, McNeese State is where he was. 40 catches or so, nearly 500 and some yards and 3 touchdowns. And he was a late name that kind of emerged in the portal. And so he signs with Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely could use as many wide receivers as possible after what happened last year. You just could not overcome the amount of injuries and the thin ranks that you had there. And it didn't help that even if you would have had great receivers or something, that you didn't have an offensive line to block to give you time. And then a lot of times you didn't have the quarterback to get it there. Like, that whole offense was just an absolute mess. But I think with the change at OC, with Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer coming in, I mean, that's a definite upgrade. And then, what you've done just here recently, Jay Knott, for example, and they've been very active. So I think Oklahoma's a very interesting team. I mean, everybody's interesting, right? I mean, to some extent, but I mean, we're talking about West Virginia. Like, it's fascinating with Rich Rod back there. They brought in 40 plus guys. I mean, over half the roster is transfers next year for West Virginia. So like, that's interesting. Deion Post, his kids, both. And then also Travis Hunter. I think the league's very interesting. And then in Oklahoma, out there in the SEC, yeah, I mean, do they bounce back, or is this the new norm? I know that the haters want it to be the new norm, and I know that there's people that hope that it is because, like, for example, our buddy Kendall warned Oklahoma of this move to the SEC, but there's a lot of positivity about this team now because of the moves they've made this offseason. So he's another one of those. We'll see if it all, saves Brent Venable's job in the end, but good to have another receiver in the mix.
Well, they have definitely put a lot of collateral money, finances into it with Nagy and others.
They've hired a brand new NFL style staff, basically, like NFL GM. Went and got the top portal quarterback, went and got what would have been, I mean, would Jaden not be the top portal running back of the whole cycle?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They got him, and I could go on with the other moves that they made. But, yeah, I mean, expectations should be huge no matter what. But then especially in light of last year and the seat getting warmer for Brent Venables, I mean, they're all in. So if it doesn't work this year, I don't know what else he can do really to change their fortunes and get them on a better path. So, yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting year.
I think that's it for the portal. And we don't need to mention everybody because we're not an online site. We are also not a newspaper, but we gave you at least some of the nuggets. I think Kansas State was able to get a 4-star offensive lineman that they picked up. So there's a lot, but we don't have time to get through all of it. Meanwhile, remember yesterday's story about the Pac-12, really Oregon State, Washington State, and they have games now on some of the television networks. Bob Thompson, who was with us back when the Texas OU story popped. This was a text to me yesterday, didn't have time to get to it, on the agreement. This was a unique scenario where rights fees were not the driver, which they always are. Exposure was. And we knew that because the Pac-12 or Oregon State, Washington State needed to get on TV. Broad distribution was paramount for the 2 remaining Pac-12 schools. To that end, the folks from Octagon And the conference office did a great job securing linear television deals with the CW, CBS, and ESPN. Obviously, again, this was not for a lot of money, but it was to make sure that they had somewhere where people could watch them play most of their games.
Yeah, I think it's a good deal for them. Look, it's more money than they were getting before, and sets the table for them when the conference expands in 26.
Yeah, I don't want to make it more than it really is, but I know it was a really good day for Pac-12 fans who are obviously left over from Wazoo and Oregon State, but also all the teams that'll be joining here in the near future. So to have an idea of kind of who you might be working with beyond this year, I mean, this sets up to, well, yeah, they're probably working with CW on the next contract and maybe CBS and ESPN as well. But yeah, the money's obviously not great because nobody's really mentioning the money, or they're saying like, it's not really about the money. It's about the exposure. So yeah, they seem to have gotten a good amount of exposure, and I feel like they did the best with the hand that they were dealt. And now they've just got to go finalize this final effing team on their conference so they can meet that threshold. And then I think you can put that to bed and then start to look at the next TV deal and all of that. But a good day for the Pac. I saw a lot of eye rolls, as you might imagine, from like Big 12 fans and others, but it is what it is. After a couple of years ago, that was quite the online war that was going on there for a while, so that's to be expected.
Here's what I'm going to say. Did they have this deal before yesterday?
No.
Whether there's more money involved or just a few $100,000, they have it. And now they could try to at least use this as almost an anchor, no matter what it leads to, if they can get to that full 8 to be an official conference.
No, yeah, it was just funny to see that trash talk still lasting, even though Oregon State and Washington State really had nothing to do with what happened. They were just the unfortunate bystanders, really, in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's better than what they had, which was nothing. So yeah, to have a TV deal in hand for next year and to know where you're playing and where the games will be and all of that, that's a great blank filled for those two teams and for the Pac management and leadership.
All right, a couple of other notes. This guy, Shannon Terry, Paul, I think, Craig, you nailed this like a long time ago. He's owned websites, message boards, and now Yahoo Sports is selling Rivals, which was one of the originals, to On3, where Shannon Terry is, I believe, the owner and CEO. So these are the recruiting sites, and more than that, too, they're message boards. But it's been through, I want to start with, I think it was Rivals, then it was 247, and they're still there. And then it went to somewhere else, and another one opened up, and
there was Scout
then it was
there
on
for a
3.
while.
Who?
Scout was out there
Scout
for a
was
while.
out there for a while. So it's, every school has, whether it's 1 or 8 different message boards for fans to get on and discuss and cover a lot of things. But this guy started out selling it to Yahoo. He was the co-founder in 2007 for about $100 million. He then founded the On3 network in 2021. He was the founder of 247, sold that to CBS, and now On3 is buying what Rivals is under the umbrella of Yahoo Sports.
Yeah, and Yahoo will have a partnership, and they'll have board seats and all of that. I hope this doesn't come with a lot of people getting fired, because there's redundancy.
Yeah, I don't know how that'll work, because I was thinking about in particular, like the biggest sites over at Rivals. There's already those sites over at On3. They already have a Texas site. They already have an Oklahoma site. They already have those biggest schools. So yeah, I don't know what happens to the Yahoo Rivals versions of those schools, whether they just get, like, for example, Orange Bloods. Like that's a Rivals board, whereas what is it? Inside Texas, I think, is the On3 board. So how does that work? I can't imagine they combine. The egos alone would be like, there'd be a nuclear bomb go off. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I have made the joke before that I was just waiting for the day when he was going to sell On3 for $250 million. And then about 4 years later, we'd get huthut.com, which was the new revolutionary scouting service. And then he would have that for like 6 years. Then he'd sell that. Then 5 years later would come back and, godeep.com, because that's basically what he's done. It's been Rivals and and then, eventually On 3 as well. So, yeah, I think they called it a full circle moment. It very much is, since that's where it all started for them. So, yeah, I'm more interested in the fallout of, like, what happens once combined. And
I saw somebody, Craig, mention who's a writer for a rival site that says they don't know their future.
Well, I'm sure. Let's face it, guys. Rivals was pretty much dead. I mean, like, outside of Orange Bloods is very successful. I'm sure there's some others that are. But for the most part, a lot of their biggest brands had already gone to 247 or
to On 3.
Or to On 3. So, or they went to 247 and they went to On 3.
Yeah.
So, like, he is the kingpin in that way. Like, he just knows how to run these types of websites, and he has all of these connections. So, yeah, I don't know what happens for some of those schools, like I said. And Rivals was kind of, it just felt like it was sort of there these last few years. It definitely wasn't on par with On 3 as far as just broader coverage or even 247. So, I'm not surprised by this in the slightest that Rivals is being folded in or whatever they're going to do. I guess the really good thing is you get all that data, right, that was out there, all the history, I would imagine, that comes with sites that have been around for 20-plus years now at this point. I mean, Rivals was like the big dog for a long time there. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure to have all that info and everything will be really beneficial. To be with Yahoo, that's obviously better than the situation you had previous to that. And yeah, it's full circle. So that's really cool for him, but I am interested in the collateral damage and what that might look like.
We do have to get to Tony Caridi, but don't think that when it's over at 4:00, we're not going to get to the most saddening story of the day that you skipped right through. You skipped it. You skipped it on me, Smokey. On the rundown.
Travis Hunter being
introduced
in Jacksonville. Oh, the Jordan Travis. No, I wanted to hold off on that, have its own segment.
Sure.
We'll break here. By the way, Hall of Fame track and field coach Clyde Hart, who has a book written him, Bryce Cherry of the Waco Tribune wrote a book, Once Around is Enough. He is legendary. He's going to join us in studio at about 4:30 today, and we'll go over the book and also his career. And a little bit later on, Zack Gelb is going to join us just after 5 o'clock, Infinity Sports Network, on many things college football and the NFL. All of that and more coming up, including Tony Caridi, voice of West Virginia Athletics. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and key to this, used to be. As you get older, usually when you start to get into your 40s and up near 50, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Some get more attention than others. ED, sex drive's not the same. The one that also can be a big pain is you're just not there as much. You're lethargic. Your energy's dropped. And it could be your testosterone level. It could be a lot of things, but that is absolutely one that could be a problem. So if any of those symptoms are a part of you and you're in your mid-40s or upper and you're starting to feel that and it wasn't there like that 3 or 4 years ago, contact Dr. Kent Petty, Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Tell him I sent you. He will put you in a program to help increase your testosterone levels at pettycliniclowt.com.
Is on at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get the 2024 Ram 3500 diesel 4x4 for just $56,800, or drive home a 2025 Ram 1500 for only $35,900. Big trucks, big savings, only at Allen Samuels in Waco.
I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Everything I like. I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
The Jeep Celebration event is on at Allen Samuels. Get the luxurious 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer with a huge $13,000 dealer discount plus 0% financing. Big savings, legendary Jeeps at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Tony Caridi, voice of West Virginia Athletics. Great to have you on. Tony, there's an article today in the ESPN, I think it was from today or yesterday, for Rich Rodriguez in West Virginia is second time a charm. Does it feel that way? We won't know till wins and losses, results and scores. But does that kind of the feeling in Morgantown?
Rich has always been charming, David. There's no question about that. This is going to be super interesting. This is going to be a lot of fun. When you just take a look at the big picture, and you guys follow this and have through the years, when Rich left here 17 years ago, to say that it was a very, very ugly divorce would be an understatement. And the mere fact that he is back is just kind of a wow. And I've told him that. I've said, Rich, sometimes I'm driving down around and I'm just kind of running thoughts through my mind. And the fact that you're back here makes me just say, like, wow, it's amazing. But this is what he does. I think it's the perfect time for him. Rich, and for this program, Rich just exudes a great deal of energy. And he is nonstop, and he's successful, and he's coached at every different level through his career, and almost every single league now he's been involved with in some capacity. So I think it's good. I think it's gone well so far. Obviously, he can build a team a lot quicker than he did the first time that he was here, and now, as this portal season winds down and the transfers are coming in, at some point we'll kind of stop, look around here and see what he's done.
Tony, how quickly do you think he can get what is a team chock full of transfers, at least this year, to come together and look like something?
Yeah, it's a good question, Paul. So the first time he came in, this was 2001, he inherited a Don Nehlen football team and did not have the right quarterback on hand to run what he wanted to run, and it certainly showed on the field. They won 3 games, but he turned it around in year number 2. This time around, they being, the guys on this staff, they feel that they have what they need to be capable at the quarterback position. So that's not going to be an obstacle like it was the last time around. The one thing, if you follow Rich through the years, is when he has his most success, he has to have players that he calls have breathtaking speed. And he has harped on that since he got here. You need to get faster on offense. We need to get faster on defense. You go back and you take a look at the guys that he's had. So Rasheed Marshall was a quarterback, the former Big East Conference Player of the Year. And then we went into Pat White, and we went to Steve Slayton, and we went to Darius Renaud, right? All of those guys were just way elite in the speed category. And, Rasheed, Pat, Darius, and even Steve Slayton, and then even the fullback Owen Schmidt at that time. They all played in the NFL. So the short answer is this, as you guys well know, you got to have really good players. And in Rich's case, you got to have really good fast players. How long it takes for him to cultivate those and to grab those remains to be seen.
Tony, is at this point, could we make like a full, even balanced scrimmage between the players coming back from last year and the players that are coming in this year? I mean, is it like 40 to 45 at this point?
No, dude. No, it's the other way around. There's more new. There's more new than not new. And I was just looking at something with the latest commitments that they've gotten here in the last day or so. Right now, they're over the 105. But as you guys, I'm sure, have been talking about over the last several weeks, is it going to be 105 once this thing finally settles, or are we going to go back up and grandfather the thing in? Mm-hmm. But as of right now, it's 105. And I think, guys, you could potentially be close to between 75 and 80 newcomers that weren't on the team last year.
Tony Caridi, voice of West Virginia, with us on Rich Rodriguez and Company. The spring, everyone's wrapped that all up. And you're talking about those coming and going and all of that. In the end, most coaches are like on National Signing Day. They feel like they always got who they wanted. We know they never really do. Get that. Was there any inclination about how he felt knowing there were so many moving parts of what was accomplished?
So the thing on this, David, is you guys, right, follow every single day. Like in this new world, I think if you were told Rich 15 years ago that you're going to have 80 new guys on your team, that, he might stroke out. He did this last year at Jacksonville State. He had, and I'm not saying that way, but he had an inordinate number of guys that were first-year players, and then a bunch that didn't come until like way after summer school had started, not even January guys. And so I think he's not flipped out about it. He's not freaked out about it. Would they wish right now that they had more depth? Would they wish that they had more overall speed? Yes. But at the same time, I get the gist that they're ready to put this thing together. Now, keep in mind, as you guys have well documented through the years, West Virginia was one of the few schools in the country that was playing in its 3 non-conference games 2 Power 4 schools. Fortunately, that's gone. And so West Virginia goes Robert Morris, Ohio University, albeit it's on the road in Athens, Ohio, but nevertheless, and then you go Pitt here in Morgantown. And so from that perspective, at least you can get a couple of games right off the bat to kind of get your wits about you and get a little bit of a feel before you play, the Pitt Panthers, and then you roll into the league. So I think on paper, it's a little bit more easy to digest than it has been in past years where they've opened on the road at Power 4 schools like in 4 of the last 5 years.
Some coaches, when asked about rivals, will, we just got to keep focused on the one game and coach speak it out. Rich Rodriguez took the different exit on that one and talked about how much of, just being, a lifelong Mountaineer, he hates Pitt, and like how, that game is all wrapped up in it. How much was that something the fans kind of needed to hear, just him coming back and reinvigorating, because this is a very frustrated fan base right now, because I just got the feeling by talking to anybody from West Virginia, they felt they were like right there on the right road, just didn't know where to turn.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. So again, a little bit more of history for those that don't follow WVU as closely. For those that don't remember, Rich's last ever game at West Virginia was one of the great upsets, really in college football, and certainly in WVU school history. They lose 13-9 to Pitt, and that game and that loss on the final game of the regular season took them out of the national championship game. And so when Rich came back in, rather than try to be evasive about it, he stuck his face straight into it. And ironically, guys, the final in that game was 13-9. And West Virginia will play Pitt this year on 9-13. So the football gods are sending a message here. And Rich said right from the beginning, let's go, let's play. And so it'll be one of the more built up, exhilarating leads to that West Virginia Pitt game. And as you guys know, that game is just an incredible history.
Tony, as someone you've been involved in college athletics for as long as you have as a broadcaster, but following college football, There's a story today about Texas that with the $20.5 million settlement, and everybody has that opportunity to use it, but also on top of that, and they're not the only one. They get they get a lot of the attention. Could be $35 to $40 million. Asking if it's sustainable is a dumb question because it's not. But do you feel like there's enough of those schools that could to where one day they will have their own conference?
It's a great question. It's a fundamental question. My initial thought would be no. I don't think there's enough of them, enough of that level to break away and do their own thing. And we've talked about in the past, guys. I mean, the essence of college sports that we grew up loving was what? It was regional rivalry. And I think the farther away we go from that, it takes away from the interest level of fans, quite simply. You guys know this. When we used to be able to watch a player develop and a team develop over the years and watch them as freshmen, sophomore, juniors, that was one of the big fun parts of it. And now basically we're just putting these teams together year in and year out. So to answer your question, no, I don't think there is. I think there's always going to be that super high level of schools that have those resources to be able to do that, but there's not enough. And I think that they have to have someone to play. And so I don't think that that we get to that point. I hope we don't get to that point because I think this thing has become, crazy diluted as it is. I would hope that as these changes take place, that we finally get some sensibility in the non-football and basketball sports, and we regionalize. I think it can be done. And I think that it would benefit programs, it would benefit costs, and I think it would also improve the interest level of folks that follow these teams that aren't football and basketball.
Yeah, look, it even I think hurts in football and basketball a little bit because I think the Pac-12 saw it with Colorado and Oregon. It's like the biggest thing of they're like, okay, they both have legal weed. Let's make that a rivalry was kind of the idea. And then they were like, yeah, I mean, we want to win the game, but rivalry, I'd stop short of that. But I do agree with you, Tony. I think there's a really easy way to just make it regional. I mean, what conferences that people like. Just go back to that for the stuff that's not making all the money and, call it a day on the other stuff. I think that's really reasonable.
I do. There's the bizarre nature of this stuff. The other day or a couple weeks ago, I was doing my show, and we've got 4 screens in our studio when we do our show. And I'm looking up there, and it's like Friday. Might have even been Thursday. And I'm watching Oregon play at Rutgers in softball, and Oregon just 10-runned them. So, the thing was done after 5 innings. And I'm thinking to myself, now you flew from Eugene, Oregon to New Jersey. You just 10-runned them. What are we doing? And on this side, this spring, WVU's got a really, really good soccer team that was played, national championship contender in each of the last 2 years. This spring, they did a thing called the Spring Soccer Classic. And in this general area, they got West Virginia, they got Pitt, they got Maryland, they got Duke, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. I think those 6 schools. And they played against each other, right? So, that is the essence of what this thing is supposed to be. Why can't all of the other non-football, non-basketball schools do that? All these ADs ever talk about is trying to, save money. You can get super good competition right there without sending your kids away for 3 and 4 days at a time to play in these games. I think someone at some point has got to stand up and say, this is a better way to do that.
Speaking of baseball, wow. What,
how 35 about those Mountaineers, David? How about them?
35-5 the last time I glanced at the standings. They're starting to get a little bit more love in the top 25 and obviously will most likely host their opening round or whatever they in the playoffs. Give me an idea. What is that giving this your campus a little juice?
Oh, yeah. It's been fantastic. A couple of things. So several years back, they built a new stadium. And it's just gorgeously located and great scenic view, 1. 2, Randy Mazey was the coach up until last year and did just a fantastic job of setting the foundation in this program over more than a decade. his assistant, Steve Sabins, took over. Now, in Randy's last year, they went to the Super Regional for the first time in school history. And Steve, who was centrally involved in all of the goings-on within the program over the last, several years, has not missed a beat. You mentioned, I think they are 35-5. They got a game, rivalry game tonight down in Charleston, West Virginia, end of a 3-game series for the year against Marshall. They play them in Huntington, Morgantown, and now in Charleston. And then they've got the Red Raiders of Texas Tech here this weekend. So, yeah, it's been an unbelievable season. They've already set a record for attendance. People are loving it. They're embracing it, and it's certainly been a lot of fun.
And yeah, they're pretty much right now. I don't want to jinx it, but pretty much a locked host, wouldn't you say?
I hope. The RPI has not been kind to them during the course of the season, and when a couple of the ranking services haven't been either. But last time I checked, after they swept UCF this past weekend, they were at 15. So that's good. But, at this moment, you could make a case for these guys as a team of destiny. They've done some things that you're not supposed to do and still win games. How about this? They sweep UCF. They get out-hit in every game, and they had one hit in the Friday night game and still won the game. So they're living life well right now, and hopefully that can continue.
Of all the sports, football gets most of the attention, men's basketball, and then, of course, it just depends. But baseball is, to me, the best radio-type broadcast as far as the sport. Which one do you prefer? Is that like asking –
So my canned question to that, my canned answer to that question is always this. I love the one that's in season. But you guys, and I truly do believe, I truly mean that, but they are so, the three, among those three, they're absolutely so different, right? Football is an 8 to 10 second explosion of a play, and then you redo it. Basketball is just nonstop frenetic. And then baseball has its own speed of play. We had a game the other day, one of those UCF games, that thing went 4 hours and 43 minutes, which they probably need to fix some way. So to me, they're completely different. My son is the WVU baseball announcer. He does WVU baseball, WVU women's basketball. And so he does that, and it's just a slower delivery, but I haven't done it. I would like to do more, to be quite honest with you. I would, and I'm not jumping on the bandwagon just because they're good now, but I think there's a certain, that's probably the hardest thing I think to announce. In my opinion, I think would be baseball because of the challenges that it gives you.
The pace of play.
And 4 hours and 40 minutes. Basketball game, like, hey, baby, we're out of here in 2 hours and 5 minutes. Everything is good. They're playing double what a basketball game is. It's really interesting.
That's why I really miss Vin Scully because it was like watching a guy just walk up to a piano and start playing. And then he's just it's an orchestra every time, or a symphony. And with baseball, it's really hard to do that and have enough things and not repeat the same stories over and over again.
I always said this about Vin Scully among announcers. Most of us are playing checkers, and there are very few elite guys that were chess players. And to me, Vin Scully was doing chess, and everyone else is trying to do checkers.
Yeah, the storytelling.
He's Boris Spassky.
Ball one. Yeah,
that's who he is.
I remember doing football, and then I had to do a JUCO basketball game, and man, I felt like I was on fire the whole time. Yeah, and especially, Tony, early in the year, because you got to learn the players. And now with the transfer portal, you got to do it 10 times as much. So
trust me, I go to a lot of practices, and when they start them together in June and then in September, because you're going you got to learn your whole team. This is basketball has become TBT, right? The TBT that we have every summer.
Yeah.
These teams, that's all college basketball is. It just lasts for 6 months. That's what this thing has become. Like when a Baylor loses its entire roster, then there's something fundamentally wrong with what we're doing.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time, Tony.
Thank you, guys.
Voice of West Virginia Athletics, Tony Caridi, with us is year one, era two, part two of Rich Rodriguez, and also the Mountaineers. Hey, around 4:30, Hall of Fame track coach Clyde Hart is going to join us. And I've had some of you send me some questions you'd like for me to ask him. We'll do that. He'll be in studio. Also, Zack Gelb again at just after 5. But a couple of more stories to get to, including Paul, Catalina, whose heart's been broken quite a bit with players being drafted. He wanted to play for the Cowboys. Here's another one from today. We'll get to that and more. And how did Jacksonville introduce Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter Jr. today? It was pretty special. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco, and coming up with the special events. What do you have coming up? Mother's Day, a week from Saturday, graduation going on over the next few weeks, and they are there for you. For example, graduation celebration, unforgettable celebration with delicious food and joyful festivities in their elegant ballroom, personalized enhancements to make your graduate feel extra special, exceptional service and ambience, everything to make the celebration of graduation very special. They're having this on Friday, May 16th. There's 11:30 to 1:30 for a lunch, and then evening 5 to 8:30. Saturday, May 17th, 11 to 1:30, and again 5 to 8:30. $55 for members, $65 for non-members. So yes, I'm not a member there. You can still be a part of the graduation celebration. Contact them. General Manager Mike Mosel. Tell them you watch 365 Sports, and a little extra something you get also with that. It's the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
I think it was Chris Visser. Was it Kyle Visser? Excuse me. That Chris Visser is a friend of ours. His sister's the sideline reporter for so many years, and Chris has been somebody that's helped us at Super Bowls on Radio Row, asking me about asking Coach Hart about a coach that was at Howard University. And then also, thanks to Sean Hunt, Sean, an historian when it comes to a lot of Waco and Central Texas sports, high school sports in general, but asked me to ask him about former Richfield High star Zeke Richardson, who ran with him back around 1980. So we'll get to that. If you have questions for the Hall of Famer, we will get to those as well. But a couple of stories. One, man, this was pretty cool. I don't remember exactly who I saw put this out there, but today, as the draft is over, players are starting to arrive at the site of where they're going to play. Today, Jacksonville, who made the bold move and what appears to be a hellacious move, trading up to get Travis Hunter Jr., and here is that introduction.
You know, as we sit here, Travis Hunter is a Jacksonville Jaguar, and really what comes to mind for me, right? Thinking about the sport of football and really the power of the game itself, right? Its capacity to ignite belief, right? Belief in ourselves, belief in others, right? Belief in achieving what many may deem impossible. Travis Hunter, he embodies belief, right? He's a rare person, he's a rare player, but he's also a reminder that the boundaries of the game of football were built to be challenged. And so the decision to select him was actually a statement for how we plan to move, who we are, and we want him to be nothing more than him. Because when he is, he elevates the space around him. From the football field to the city to the game of football itself, Travis Hunter is who we've been hunting up. Couldn't be more jacked to be sitting right here beside him and introduce you all to the man of the hour.
And then, of course, he went on to talk. That's James Gladstone, the young Jaguars general manager. I promise you, if you took that picture and cropped it out and put it next to Andrew Valade's picture, it could be him.
Maybe, just maybe. I love James
What
Gladstone.
an introduction, though.
I love James Gladstone. Big fan of what he's doing in Jacksonville. It's really interesting that they appear to have somebody who's young and hungry and really clever when it comes to it. And he was in the Rams organization for a really long time and is credited with a lot of their better acquisitions by Les Snead, his former boss. So I think it's very interesting. And he got aggressive whenever got Travis Hunter. It might be fun to watch the Jags now. This is rare.
Yeah, I mean, I commend them on going and getting a player they clearly wanted a lot and who's already created a lot of buzz for them. I mean, it's not that creative of a gamble when he was arguably the best player of the draft the entire process. But, I mean, they still had to go make a move to get him. And so, we'll see. You know, they changed GMs. That was a long time coming. I know that the assistant GM just stepped down. It was today or yesterday. I'm not sure if that was all part of the plan. But they definitely needed a freshening up of that front office. So the Khan family, I think, did the right thing there, and I think they picked a hell of a future star to build this team around. But it is the Jaguars, so I'm not holding my breath with success following soon. But I do think Travis Hunter is going to be a great player in the NFL.
Yeah, I do. I hope so, too. Did I see that they actually want him? He can play both receiver and cornerback. I always thought the talk was about playing corner, but I see that they really want to see what he can do at wide receiver. Is that where did I see? I thought I saw that. Maybe it was another team that actually traded that thought they were going to get Travis Hunter. Obviously, he has the ability to play pretty much whatever he wants. Also, that prank phone call. Shedeur Sanders and Ulrich, the defense coordinator's son, NFL fines the Falcons $250,000, and Ulrich also gets a $100,000 fine. Can you imagine the conversation he's already had with his son, and now with the amount of money he's about to pay, the next conversation he's going to have with his son?
My dad got mad at me a few times in life for doing some things. I never embarrassed him at work, though, and that's one I'm glad I didn't have to have with him. Like, that would have been wait a minute, you did what to me now? Like, how could you do this? That's going to, it's going to follow him around for a minute. It's such a sad situation, and it wasn't just Shedeur Sanders. It was several players that got pranked.
Yeah,
I saw a couple others,
I think Ulbrich's son's a dumbass, and he's young, so I mean he'll learn from this probably. But I also think it's like we talk about with some of these players, like they're just kids. He's 21 years old. Like you didn't know better than at 21 to take your NFL coaching dad's iPad and swipe a number off of it and then give it to your dumbass buddy, and then y'all go on film together and film the prank call and put it out to the world. And you never once think, like not once do you think like maybe this is a bad idea. Like maybe this is not a good idea. You went to all of those lengths. You got the number. You gave it to somebody. You went on camera and filmed it. You put it out there. Like just there's stupidity in being young, and I definitely did dumb stuff. This is like beyond dumb though, dude. Like this is something I can't relate to because I don't think I've ever been that hungry for fame. I've never been that hungry, and when I was making really dumb choices, thank God social media wasn't around, or maybe I'd end up like Ulbrich's son, although this is a bridge too far. I would have been like more self-harming. It wouldn't have been like prank calling somebody. It would have been just doing something incredibly stupid, probably like jumping off a bridge or something into a river. Like just some stupid, I'm young and unbreakable kind of a thing, right? Mm-hmm. This is like actively going out and pranking somebody and doing so through your dad's job. I don't know how you had so many red lights that you just kept going through.
And he's not even the one that made the call. He's the one that gave the
He's the one that was sitting next to the guy making the call.
I know that, but do you mean at any time they didn't say, you really think we should do this on camera?
Well, I only thing I could think is that he's just very impressionable, and his buddy like talked him into it, and I don't know, maybe they had a few beers. I don't know. People do dumb stuff. He doesn't need to have his life ruined over this. I do think it was a bit ridiculous, the number of people that were trying to excuse this of like, well, what about everybody else that got pranked? Yes, it got covered more because it was Shedeur. Of course it did. It also got covered more because the two geniuses behind the call put the video out of them making the prank call, unlike I think some of the others that were getting pranked. So yeah, the NFL needs to do a better job about numbers leaks because it shouldn't happen to anybody, not Shedeur, not any of the other guys who also had to deal with it. It definitely got more exposure because of who the target was and also the fact that they openly put themselves out there. But yeah, what an embarrassing moment for the family. Totally unnecessary. And there's a little bit of trust broken now between father and son, you would think. Like, I can't leave my iPad out because my son is going to go take it and give it to his dumb buddy, and they're going to try to go viral, which they did that. So I wonder, you read the statement and everything, and I wonder how sorry he really is, because how many hits did it get in the long run? You know what I mean? Like, is he really sorry, or is he sorry that he got caught, but he's still...
You ever done something where you feel like your face is on fire because everybody's staring at you? Mm-hmm. That's what he's been like, I'm sure. Here's another, listen, prank calls happen all the time, but when you had to kind of weave through how this could end poorly, you can't be very smart to not think about how could this end very poorly, on top of the fact that your father is the one that also got hit here because you got the number from his iPad or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, kids will be kids, although he's 20-plus years old and a college student, so I don't think he's really like the 14-year-old that prank called 911 or something. This is not what we're talking about here. That's why I don't give him just a free pass. And I do think you see the Shedeur dislike come out in droves with a story like this of people trying to excuse it because other guys got prank called. Why are y'all focusing on Shedeur? We know why they're focusing on Shedeur, but don't excuse the dumbassery behind it. That's where the focus should be, not on the coverage of it. And now you want to break that down and make it something that it wasn't. But
I'm trying to figure out.
That's the way it is.
Trying to figure out, should I have? You never pranked me or anything like that. You just do things as you grow up.
I don't do stuff like that. No, I mean, I appreciate a good prank. I think this is just totally stupid, though. I mean, when you look at the ramifications of it all, and just like I said, the blowing past every red light of, here's a major NFL prospect's number on my dad's iPad. What should I do with this? Just keep walking? No, I'm going to take it. Then I'm going to tell my buddy about it, and my buddy and I are going to somehow come to the agreement that we're going to then prank call him and perhaps others, I don't know. And then we're going to have the really brilliant idea. We're going to film ourselves doing this. And then we're going to put it on the internet when we know everybody's talking about this prank call. And like, oh my God, how funny. Who did this? Well, we can't not get our attention, right? So we've got to put it, there's just stupid decisions made across the board on their part. They could have fully pulled that off and no one would have been the wiser to it. and it would have been just as successful. But I guess you just had to have your face on camera to get the full credit for it, and that's where you were a dumbass.
There's nothing worse than when your mother would always like want to just slap the hell out of you, and then wait till your father gets home, and then when your father would say, "I'm incredibly disappointed in you," and then like, no, beat me, hit me, slap me, spank me, something. Yeah,
I just know that like here's what my dad would do. He would come up with like really bizarre, like difficult punishments for me. Like one time, it was the fall. I was like 9 years old and got in a tiff with my sister about, who even remembers, but I do know that like my punishment was I had to rake the yard, and I was like, oh, okay, well I knew I was going to do that anyway. But he went out and bought himself a brand new rake, and he had run over the old one in his truck, and it was like 2 rake, prongs next to each other and then bent all over the place. I had to do the entire driveway with that rake.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It was hard. And I was like, well, what about the other rake? And he's like, nah, that one's mine. It was that kind of, messed up punishment that he would come up with for things that he deemed in the...
Pete, he's a sweet guy.
He was until you crossed him as a 9-year-old, and then it was it, He was, look, he set
probably
the rules.
made you go to A&M games as a punishment.
That was a punishment for him too. But yeah, he would come up with some other stuff. We're like, hey, we're gonna clean out the garage today, and then I'm like, okay, we're gonna clean out the garage. He's like, oh, here's a list of the things that need to get out of here, and if you need help, call a friend. Yeah.
One time, and this was when I was younger in Japan, and my mom and dad had gone away for a weekend to like Philippines or whatever, and they came back, and me and my buddies were having fun throughout the weekend, and they came back a day early, and I came in very, very late. It was not a pretty picture, and I went to bed. My mom was in the other room. She goes, in pitch dark, hey, David, what are you doing? And then you're dead, right? And then the next morning, my father wakes me up and says, we're going to church, and then also made me sit on the back porch and smoke those old green military cigars for about 2 or 3 hours.
Ugh.
And then do yard work. Yeah, that was the one I will always remember. Any memories like that for you, Craig? I don't think
I want to keep the show on the air.
Here's one for Paul. Well, Jordan Travis, who cost Florida State a national championship because of an injury that was awful, and he has informed the Jets he was a part of the NFL. He is announcing his retirement. This is just such a crazy ending to what was such an amazing run as the quarterback for unbeaten Florida State.
Yeah, it really sucks that the injury was that bad that now 2 years out of it he can't play anymore. But it was. Everybody saw the injury. It was very grisly, broken ankle. The doctors told him he had to medically retire. I'm sure he's going to wind up around the game somehow. Was a great leader, and this to me makes it all that much worse is that he took it so hard that he got hurt and they couldn't go in. So now I think, the committee, it just makes me madder at them that you couldn't even let him be there on the sideline and experience the moment now. Just terrible.
Yeah.
But he was a great story when it came to the transfer portal era. And look, Kendall Briles recruited him from Louisville. Actually, recruited him before Louisville. Really liked him. Got him to transfer from Louisville. He was a bit of a mess early on in his career. When it came to being in, he was kind of all over the place. You saw the potential, but then eventually, they started winning with him, and he was just a great story.
Well, he's a great dude. I hate that the career ended that way, and also that it cost Florida State what it did when they had earned it from what they had done throughout that season. When we come back, the Hall of Famer Clyde Hart, he's next. This is 365 Sports. My journey to try to stay fit, try to keep my weight down, has been through quite a bit the last, let's say, 6 to 12 months. When I was 282.5 pounds and I arrived at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness in March of 2013, it was going to be a challenge. I'd been through various, I guess you could say, weight loss opportunities, this and that, but I just did it for 3 or 4 months and then I'd put the weight back on, which is not healthy at all. So finally, I started to work out. Christy London, personal trainer, took me from 282.5 pounds down to as low as 190. And today, I'm 192 pounds, despite the fact that I've had some really kind of almost chronic at times soreness in my right hip, at times because my shoulders flared up with muscle spasms, and I'm also older, about to turn 66. But it has been worth it because I feel better. I finally, back in mid to late January, well, actually early February, said, damn it, I've got to fight through some of this. Not doing things that'll make it worse, but doing things to help me lose an inch or two and especially lose some weight. I was getting too big. Didn't get over, 202, but now back to 192 today. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors. Baylor Athletics Trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Over the history of track and field, there are icons, legends, athletes, and also coaches. Here's a book, Bryce Cherry from the Waco Trib. It's a fantastic book. Once Around is enough, of course, talking about one trip around the track, circling the globe, chasing the wildest of dreams with track and field's most successful 400-meter coach in Clyde Hart. The forward by Michael Johnson. Dr. Maxine Hart is also here in our studio. Appreciate you being a part of our segment with us. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Coach Hart. Clyde, thank you very much for your time. How long, and Bryce told me the story that he was interviewing you, and then you brought up a book, and would you like to write my book? How long had you been piecing together pieces of your life and history and memories to do something like this?
It was 6 years. We started during the pandemic. He would come over to the house on the Friday mornings and spend 2 or 3 hours doing tapes, and our intention was to accumulate it and turn it into a book. But because of Bryce's busy schedule, It took a little bit longer, but it was worth the wait. It was 6 years from the date that we started till we actually got it published.
How in the world can you encapsulate, if that's the correct word, or summarize your career? And I mean, it's a thick book. It's a great book. It's well written, of course. I mean, there's always something you couldn't get to? And how much had you kept up, like in a folder or notes or whatever, about what might be in it?
Well, one reason I wanted to do the book was to get it on written, where there'd be a record of some of these things, some of the stories and things that happened in my career that were other than running the 400 meters or coaching track and field. So that book encompasses a lot of things. As he mentioned somewhere in there, I'm kind of like the Forrest Gump, that I was at different places in history. That was kind of ironic. I was at Little Rock Central in 1957 with the Little Rock Nine. I was in Dallas, Texas, the day that JFK was assassinated. I was in Waco as a student when we had the tornado. So my life encompasses a lot of different venues, and that's what we kind of put together, plus stories from my experience with other coaches. So I think it's an entertaining book, and I think it's got some funny things, but it's also got some motivational aspects to it. So it covers a lot of ground.
What was it about the 400 that you felt that was where you kind of had the special expertise? Now, look, you coached a lot of great track athletes in other events, but when it came to what you had the best recipe for, why was the 400 your event?
Well, to me, the 400 is like the quarterback in football or the point guard in basketball. It kind of sets the tone for a track team. A good 400-meter runner can run the 100, 200, 400, run on all your relays. So it was just a move that I made early in my career to develop quarter milers, because I knew that it would help me overall to have a better track team.
Was there something early on as you were going through and becoming who you were that you mentioned what Paul said about the 400 meters, that this was the one that was going to be your dude?
The 400, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, like it could have been the 200. It could have been the
yeah.
Well, I mean, like, this is the one you said this was going to be it.
Well, I've just got, I got lucky. I had some great athletes in other events. I had the first 60-foot shot putter in Southwest Conference history, and the first 7-foot high jumper. I could go through the list of. I had a sub 4-minute miler in Todd Harbor, but I got lucky with Michael Johnson, and that Michael Johnson developed into not just a good track athlete that I thought he would when I recruited him, but become a great one.
What was I'm curious as to the first time that you walked out into a world championship and Olympics. Like, did those moments stick out to you still, or because you've been to so many now, it's hard to pick?
Well, there's several of those that stick out more than others. Of course, Atlanta, when Michael did the double, that was very emotional. The crowd was chanting Michael. I guess 80,000 people in that stadium, and it was all Michael, Michael, and it would, give you chills, goosebumps. And the World Championships, when he set the world record in the 400, because I was truly expecting that to happen. Most of the time, world records, you don't really expect them, but he was on course to break the world record. It was a matter of getting out on the track and doing it, and he did it. But it was a very inspirational there too. So there's several moments like that stick out. The world championships that he won are numerous. He won, I think, 9 world championships, but and And then,
is one of the more iconic pictures of someone you trained was the one when he broke the record. He's looking over at the time like track athletes do. He looked at the time with that look on his face that, oh my God, I broke the record.
yeah, well, I could tell that Michael was on. Now, when he broke the world record in Atlanta in the 200 meters, that was unbelievable because he passed several time barriers. He jumped all the way from the world record of 1969 to 1930. He just skipped the 1950s and 40s and dropped all the way to 30. And that was very interesting to watch that happen. But when he set the world record in the 400, I had an inkling the day before that he was going to do that, because if he eased up 2 or 3 times coming in, and I asked him was over, I said, Michael, if you hadn't eased up, you had the world record. He said, Coach, I want to break it tomorrow in the finals. And that was the confidence that he had. So that was the way he got the world record in the 400, that he charted it. He knew that he was ready to do it. In fact, he told me, I was in 1999, that he needed to break the world record because the Olympics were the next year, and the Olympics were not a place that you want to go in to set world records. You go in to try to get the gold medal. So he said, I got to do it at the World Championships in 99, and he did.
Coach, of all the things that you've accomplished, where does representing Team USA and being a part of the Olympics and that just ability to have the stars and stripes and the red, white, and blue, like how special was that? And when it comes to Olympic sports, like a part 2, you know how wacky college athletics is these days. How much concern do you have for the attention being paid to the Olympic system with all that's going on in college sports right now?
Well, there's nothing, at least to me, and the coach of track and field, is to get the first USA national uniform. As a coach, I didn't get one as a student athlete. It was always a dream to wear a USA uniform, but I was fortunate to be able to coach some national teams and represent the USA. So it was always an honor and a privilege to be the USA representative and take part.
I can't imagine wearing that across your chest or on a uniform or, like you said, a windbreaker. It just can't get better than that.
Yeah, I can remember in Atlanta when Michael set the world record, he cried on the award stand, and there's an iconic picture of him with the tears running down his cheeks, and that's just the way it is. I mean, that was quite an accomplishment, and it just overwhelmed him at that moment. And the Star Spangled Banner playing, it was very touching.
Coach, you coached so many different, like Sonia Richards-Ross, like other people came in, and was there kind of a flood of people that called you after Michael Johnson, or were you able to kind of control it in a way?
Well, my intent was never to coach anybody other than the Baylor athletes. The first break in the ice came with a young man named Greg Hawthorne. Greg was out running, and he was, I believe he had gone to George Mason University, and he wasn't having much. He was an NCAA champion and a good runner, Jamaican, but he wasn't having any luck on the pro circuit. And he called and wanted to know if he could come to Waco and train with Michael. Well, I said, Greg, I don't really have plans to do that, but let me run it by Michael and see if he maybe thinks that a training partner might be a good idea. And he agreed to it and said, yeah, it'd be good to have another runner that I can train with. And so Greg came in and trained with us, and lo and behold, at the Olympics, Greg got third and Michael got the gold. So we got the gold and the bronze with our little group. And so that was a thrill.
How much was with Sonia Richards-Ross and her battle to win? She had injuries. She always had something that popped up, and we've seen these stories of resiliency, and I got to know her because we knew Aaron Ross really, really well. How much of hers was physical or mental to get over to, like, break through?
Well, I think it goes hands in hand. When you have injuries, it's going to work on your mind because you're always got that fear that I'm running good and it's going to happen to me again. Sonia had a rare blood disorder that caused lesions on her body. And I actually remember having to take a paper Coca-Cola cup and folding it for her to put in her mouth because her lips are so ulcerated that they were sticking together. And she finally got over that after doctor after doctor trying to figure out what it was. They finally came up with a solution. And then she was very fortunate not to have any serious injuries, except at the Olympics 2008, she got a cramp coming in the straightaway and was favored to win and ended up third. And that was very devastating to her because she had planned on that and was definitely the best runner in the world at that time in the women's 400. And to get the bronze medal, that wasn't very satisfying, though it should have been an honor anytime you medal, but it wasn't. So she got prepared and she carried a mad for 4 more years and then got the gold medal in 2012 in London.
It was amazing, that moment. And incredible. She, of course, trained with you here at Baylor as well. Was there anyone in particular who became either a gold medalist, world record holder, or somebody that won a world championship that you really weren't so sure they would, but they just kept grinding?
Well, not really. The ones that I've had that were gold medalists, it was a case of them just going up to the next level. Jeremy Warner certainly was a young man that I could tell he was injured his freshman year and was not able to compete at the level that he was later on. And then sophomore years when he broke through and won absolutely everything out there. But Jeremy was not a surprise. Once he got rolling, I knew that he had a shot at the Olympics and a gold medal. Darrell Williamson, Darrell was certainly not good enough to get the individual goal, though he was close to it. But he got the relay gold medal.
Did some guys come to Baylor to run track and the 400 meters knowing that even if they may not be able to win a gold medal, that they knew they would be pushed to the limit of greatness because of everybody else who had been here and was here?
I think so. I think that we were fortunate after we had Michael. We drew some kids in here. But I had some youngsters that were close to being to the level of the Olympics. Deion Miner, Tony Miller, all of those kids were great enough that they were NCAA champions, but just didn't quite make it to. Now, Deion did make it to the U.S. To the World Championships, but never to the Olympics.
We're talking to Clyde Hart, former Baylor Hall of Fame track and field coach. The book is called Once Around is Enough, written by Bryce Cherry. By the way, they sold out the initial allotment of books. They've done some book signings, things like that, which is amazing, not a surprise. But the Baylor bookstore will soon have a new batch arriving at the Baylor bookstore, so you can check them out. Check in with them every once in a while to make sure if you want to get yourself a book. I just... Since you retired, And it's like, I don't even know, you really are always, since you retired, how much, like you hear athletes when they're gone, like they stop competing. They miss the roar of the crowd. They miss the camaraderie, locker room or whatever. What do you miss?
Well, I hear from quite a few of them, and it's always nice to hear from your former athletes, and they would like to shed stories and talk about the past, and of course, everything is always good. They don't remember those days that those workouts really hurt, and they probably were calling me under their breath a lot of names.
Football teams and programs, and I know you had the connection with Coach Taft, and obviously you hear about, like, I got to tell you, when I moved back from, my dad was military, Japan, that you didn't play football if you didn't run track in certain places, especially in the state of Texas. I'm sure it's like that everywhere. But I was like, man, this is new, because we wrestled, because it's a different part of the world and what was sports at that particular time. But the connection of football and track and field, how unbelievably ingrained are those two sports?
Well, they certainly helped me a great deal, particularly during the Grant Taft years. Of course, you have to look at Grant's background.
Mm-hmm.
At McMurray, he coached track and field and had some good track athletes. He, of course, was a football coach, but he also was a track coach at McMurray. So when he came on to Baylor, it wasn't difficult to convince him that we needed some sprinters out there at that wideout. And of course, we had Jerome McNeil,
mm-hmm.
Bruce Davis,
Ice Cube, right?
Bruce Davis, Ricky Thompson, Alcee Jackson. You can just name them one after another, and they not only helped the football team, but they came out and helped me with because we were limited on our number of scholarships, and anytime you could pick up an athlete that was on football, that was just a bonus, and it was great. So Grant was great with that, and several other head coaches helped with it, but nobody ever helped as much as Grant did.
Clyde Hart with us, former Baylor and Hall of Fame Olympic coach, with us on 365 Sports. Paul?
What were those moments like when you were recruiting and you saw that, like, you go and you see that guy that had it? You're like, oh, wow. Because speed is one of God's gifts that is there's like different vintages of it, like wine, right? There's some kids that are fast, but the guys who have to be the champion 400-meter guys, that's just a different kind of fast.
Well, that was always an interesting recruiting thing, because you know the starting point is speed. Mm-hmm. That I can't make a kid fast. I can make them faster, but you're not going to make one fast. Mama and Daddy did that a long time ago.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, did you ever find him when, like, he's coming to bed, he's been to a track meet or whatever, and he always had a stopwatch with him, even if he went to sleep? Maxine, did you ever see that with him? Did he ever not have a stopwatch with him?
Mm-hmm. Year round, and he knows his athletes because he had them so long.
Yeah, right.
4 years in those days.
I know the microphone wasn't able to pick, but basically you've been around track and field. I appreciate that. Stopwatch, is that just like ingrained in you, like a hand, a finger, a foot, whatever?
Yeah, I've still got. In fact, I got a case at home. I put the watch in. I had the same watch through, I don't know, 20, 25 years. It timed all the world records. It timed every race. So I retired it into a trophy case at home.
That's awesome. That's a piece of memorabilia forever.
Yeah.
I had a couple of questions for you. Your training methods, this comes from the website. Your training methods for the 400 during the 90s was recognized globally around the world. Has that process, in your opinion, evolved?
I didn't.
The training methods for anyone who was running the 400 was recognized around the world with what you were doing in the 90s.
I don't think it has. I think, if anything, they have gotten away from some things, And the last Olympics, we did not get a medal in the 400 meters, which is unbelievable in this country. The training that we did in the 90s would be appropriate for the training today. I cannot see the need to change it in any manner.
Is it like you watch, and I don't watch horse racing a lot, maybe the 2 or 3 Triple Crown races every year, and depends on who wins the first and second race. And you hear about horses have to get lathered up and, they have to go through the prep to be ready to run. Is that the same thing with anyone who runs track and field?
Yeah, Michael had a way of getting into a zone, almost to the degree of being self-hypnosis. A lot of people thought that he was standoffish or trying to be above, but he just would get off to himself and just kind of work himself into almost a trance type deal to prepare.
Paul, get another one? I got a couple more too. Go ahead.
This is kind of a weird question, but when you were walking out of those Olympic, in the opening nights, was there anybody you ever saw that you were like a little bit starstruck, like, holy cow, that's, this guy?
I didn't.
Did any track athlete,
any athlete, you were walking out there with some of these great.
Anyone ever like bigger than life to you as an athlete?
I don't catch this.
Like, let's just say,
holy cow, that's Carl Lewis. I know he's from, your era, but like when you're walking out of these big things, when you're at these big events, has anybody ever or was nobody ever starstruck you like that? Or like, holy cow, that's this guy?
Well, yeah, I had several occasions that I would have athletes come up and want to talk about the race and the experience of the competition.
Yeah, and I'm sure they probably looked at you and did the same. That's Clyde Hart. That's the guy that trains the gold medalists. Mm-hmm.
I've been very fortunate that I've been around a lot of great athletes, and they all seem to have the same qualities. They're hard workers, and they're dedicated, and with their natural ability, that's a tough combination to beat.
I had a question, and I don't know. This is from we have a chat room. People are chatting on the side on our YouTube channel. Do you remember Coach, is it Moultrie at Howard University?
Yes.
He wanted to just ask me that, wanted me to ask you that question. Do you remember him, much about him?
Yes, Bill Moultrie.
Yep. Okay. You remember anything else about him?
Yes.
Just what about him?
He was an excellent coach. Very, very good coach.
How about, and this comes from Sean Hunt, who's a local guy who's at Bryan Temple, but also lives in Waco. Do you remember Zeke Richardson, who ran with you at Richfield High School in like 1980?
What was the name?
Zeke Richardson, I think is the name. Wasn't sure.
No. There was a Zeke Jefferson.
I'm sorry. Zeke Jefferson. I'm sorry. I wrote that wrong. Do you remember much about him in his career?
Outstanding runner. Was my first quarter miler to go 44. Was an excellent runner.
What's it like to be in a sporting event where absolutely a tenth of a second could be the difference in winning and also not getting on the medal stand?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. I can remember Todd Harbor finishing fourth at the Olympic trials. You take 3 to the Olympics, and he finished fourth. And it was like 0.02 of a second. It was just almost a dead heat. And how they culled him out, I don't know. But he got fourth and missed the Olympic team just by thousands of seconds.
Here's one from Paul. He texts me. He watches our show. Clyde is such a wonderful person. I sent him one of the Olympic tickets from that night when Michael Johnson broke the world record. He autographed it, and Michael then added his time on the ticket as well. When he autographed his name, he put the time down. Today is framed with Michael's Sports Illustrated cover. That signed ticket, Clyde, please tell him he's a first-class person, Paul Bloss.
Well, thank you very much.
That was pretty cool when he did that, when you did that too, and also Michael Johnson. So what's it like that you got a book, you've got the stadium, you've got all of this, and people on the chat room who are from throughout the country going, this is a man who's a living legend, and what you meant to the sport of track and field and what people think of you. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm just glad that we got the book out. It took 6 years to finally get it from start to finish. And Bryce Cherry just is a great writer. I couldn't have found a better. That was his first book as well as mine. So we had a lot to learn in the process, but the book turned out well. It's got a lot of good stories. It's got some interesting, you mentioned horse racing. The opening chapter deals with my adventures with the thoroughbred, Run Happy. So it was quite interesting doing it.
Got a question also for you, and we do appreciate it. Clyde Hart, again, the book is called Once Around Is Enough, the 400-meter legend coach. Clyde Hart with Bryce Cherry of the Waco Trib. And again, the book will be available in Baylor bookstores very, very soon. The first supply ran out. That's good news that they didn't have enough after a while, and they'll get some more. Ask, is there another athlete who ran against you in college that you wish could have run for you that maybe got away? Because there's obviously Houston has their great history and other schools in the Southwest Conference and the Big 12, et cetera. Is anyone in particular come to mind?
Oh, yeah. There's several. But the interesting thing, one of those that I would list, I missed him, although he had committed to me. And when I went to sign him, he had been hit out by another university. And so I didn't get him. And I turned around, and on the rebound, I went to Skyline High School in Dallas, Texas, and signed a young man named Michael Johnson. So by me missing out on my number one, I hit the jackpot.
And what a jackpot it was, Paul and Craig. Yeah. Michael Johnson with so many memories. When he finished that race and you knew it was a world record, you may have answered this a little bit, what was your reaction? Did you like just open your mouth, gawk? What did you do?
My first impulse was the clock broke because he broke the record by such a margin, the largest difference in records that had been out there. And for him to break it like that, it was just outstanding. And I was just glad. Somebody asked me in a press meeting, how did it feel when the race was over and Michael had won the double and set the world record in the 200? And my first impulse was, I guess I was kind of like Columbus. I didn't care if I landed in India or the New World. I'm just glad to get off this dang boat. And I was just glad to get the thing over with.
Yeah. A lot of pressure on the coach, right? Yeah. I mean, the athletes got that. They're the ones that are putting up the numbers. But my God, now that's what you get paid to do, get these guys in position. What was traveling the world like? Did you get a chance to ever really experience it and enjoy it? Or was it always so many things focused on the next event that you didn't?
Well, thank goodness I went with somebody like a Michael Johnson, because traveling with Michael was like traveling with the rock star. I mean, it was first class, everything. And we had time to do things, though the competition was always very important to us. We had trips to different sightseeing and the travel and the housing, and everything was just wonderful.
One more question from the chat room. Kyle Visser, he asked me about, there's an athlete that was at Baylor that was in the decathlon. Oh, I just lost it. Hold on. Let me try. I'm trying to do as much as we can. Ask Coach about Charles Pennington, who was, I think, a track athlete, ran the decathlon at Baylor. Do you remember him?
Charles
Pennington?
Charles Payne?
I thought he said Pennington, but that may be. He was just asking him. I know you have hundreds of athletes that you help train along the way. This is awesome. You earned this, no question, with all of what you've done to the sport of track and field, an honor, a legend, an icon. And again, this is going to be, it's the book with Clyde Hart, written by Bryce Cherry. Once Around is enough, about the legend of what he meant to 400 meters and also track and field. Baylor bookstores will have them again soon for you to buy. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Clyde Hart, the legend, track and field Hall of Famer, with us here in studio on 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved, learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Smokey is braving. We are in a torrential downpour right now. So Smokey is going to do valet service for our guests, the Harts, here, and get their car. So it'll be me and Craig here for a couple of minutes while we get the Harts all loaded up. Is Zach in yet? Not yet. Yeah. So Craig, we'll talk NFL draft with him and all of that that's going on. I'm sure he's got some opinions on college football as well. But it's really cool to hear the stories from Coach Hart and all that. They were just telling us about Sonia Richards-Ross. And I don't know how I would do it. Like, I get excited watching the Olympic opening ceremonies, just looking around. I would have loved to be on that boat in Paris this year, just walking around and seeing people.
Yeah, that would have been a really cool experience. And you're right. It's just downpour going on right now, so it might be a little while, but that was really special to have the Harts here and to have Coach at our table and reliving some memories and telling some stories. It was great stuff. So hopefully people, Baylor fans, are not able to enjoy that because the man's a legend. So, yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So,
never thought, though, when I was watching the 96 games on a hotel bed, I remember that vividly. It was Cowboys training camp was coinciding with it. So I think we were down in maybe Austin or wherever they were in 96.
I think that would have been Austin then.
Yeah, well, they went to Wichita Falls randomly one
Yeah.
year, but I think that was closer to 2000. But I think it was Austin when they used to go to St. Edwards. And I vividly remember watching that Olympics and never would have thought that watching Michael Johnson that 30 years later be talking to the man who helped guide his career and all that. You know, that's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I remember when I moved here, I never thought and I met Coach Hart, 20 years ago or so. And, interviewed him about Michael Johnson. And at the time, Jeremy Warner, was running then. And then getting to when I remember when I met Michael Johnson for the first time here in Waco, I was maybe as starstruck as I've ever been because those 96 Olympics, I remember vividly because it was in Atlanta. Well, I watched every single second of them. That I could as a 16-year-old because it was such a big deal that it was in America to me. You never knew when it was going to come back. It was just such a cool thing. And, I remember the iconic, looking at the thing. I think, Michael Johnson was all of us like, holy cow, how do you break a record that bad?
Right.
So, yeah, not yet. So anyway, we're just tap dancing here. Craig, anything going on in your life you want to talk about?
No, not really. I just seen that big break sign Garrett's giving, so I think maybe that's where we should go.
Let's go ahead and get another break in here, and then we'll have Zack Gelb on the other side.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Here we go. 365 Sports, this 5 o'clock hour, and one of our favorites of all time, Zack Gelb, Infinity Sports Network, with us on 365 Sports. So who would win, 100 men or one gorilla?
100 men. So it'd be one gorilla. 100 men would be screwed.
Yeah.
But one gorilla, easily.
Zach, my theory on this is that at least 25 are going to run away the minute the gorilla gets one. Right? So like, maybe more.
Well, like, let's be real. Who are the 100 men? Like, if we're throwing Smokey out there, he's got a back issue, a hip issue, a knee issue. He's screwed. That gorilla would look at him like easy peasy work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I think there's a fear factor of, let's go fight this gorilla. And the first time he like throws a guy out of the way, there's going to be a bunch of those guys who are like, this is a terrible idea.
It's a mean.
I don't want to be like, I think we can win in the end, but I don't want to stick around to find out.
The face.
A hot take. I'm not going after a gorilla. All right.
Yeah. I'm not going to be among 100 or 1,000 or whatever they want because I've seen them up close in a zoo, and I'm not going there. Zach, which player who was drafted, no matter when, but a specific player who was drafted, do you think that the players, the best reaction from the teammates, thrilled that he's a part of their team?
You know what? I think Ashton Genty is one where, if I'm understanding the question correctly, you look at the Raiders, like Brock Bowers has to be thrilled. You look at Geno Smith, who is a fine quarterback, not a great quarterback. Genty becomes more of the face of that offense, and he's going to carry, I think, the majority of the reps here, where they're going to be giving the ball to him a ton. I look for them to be a run first. And Pete Carroll, also someone that won with Marshawn Lynch, and people really remember Marshawn Lynch more so than Russell Wilson, especially earlier in the time of the tenure in Seattle, and plus the LOB as well. So I think Ashton Genty is the one to me where it fires up the organization a lot, even though they still have to figure out the offensive line to block for Ashton Genty.
Do you think that Shedeur Sanders will eventually be a starting quarterback in Cleveland?
Yeah, I think he's going to start multiple games this year for the Cleveland Browns. Here's my opinion on this. I think Dylan Gabriel will be on the roster and Shedeur Sanders will be on the roster. 3rd round pick, 5th round pick. I don't think they're cutting either. You don't use a 3rd round pick and then cut him. You could for a 5th round pick. I don't think Shedeur is your typical 5th round pick. He's, to me, a 1st round talent. I think more people viewed him as a 2nd round. And then what I heard with the interview process, that's why he's clearly has fallen. The real quarterback battle in terms of keeping the roster spot, because forget about Deshaun Watson. He's never played another game for the Cleveland Browns. It's really between Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, because you could carry 3 quarterbacks. And right now, I can't believe I'm saying this, I actually think Kenny Pickett is going to be the week 1 starter. And then you will see Shedeur Sanders when Kenny Pickett doesn't play well eventually on the field, maybe even Dylan Gabriel, depending on the order. But I do think that Joe Flacco could maybe get dealt to a team this offseason if someone goes down maybe in training camp, or maybe they just do the courteous thing. We'll get rid of you, Joe, and Joe, go find somewhere else where you could maybe go play, because we're going to be rotating quarterbacks in and out this year.
Zach, Shedeur's been talked about widely, and you just touched on it there, but was there any other quarterback pieces that you found of particular interest, maybe the guys that went ahead of him, like a Jackson Dart, even a Tyler Shuck, or maybe even the Quinn Ewers storyline of him falling all the way to damn near the end of the draft?
So here's how I ranked the 5 quarterbacks when this started. I had Cam Ward right before the draft. This is my 5 rankings. Cam Ward 1, Shedeur Sanders 2, then I had Jalen Milroe 3, Dylan Gabriel actually 4, and then Jackson Dart 5. So the fact that he fell to the 5th round is crazy. Going into the draft, it felt like he could fall out of the 1st round. I thought Pittsburgh would take him at 21. They didn't elect to do so. All right, he then falls out of the 2nd round. Crazy. The 3rd round, though, how no one took him, especially when the Raiders had 3 chances to do so, that was wild. I would have preferred the Giants, if they were trading up and taking a quarterback, to take Shedeur Sanders over Jackson Dart. If I'm a Saints fan, I'd rather have Shedeur Sanders over Tyler Shuck. And then the place that he goes to in Cleveland, we were talking about Cleveland all along, but once they take Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, which I had Nathan Zagora on yesterday as part of the Browns Radio Network, he said Dylan Gabriel was the 2nd quarterback on the Cleveland Browns board. The only quarterback they liked better was Cam Ward. So that was a stunner too. And then the fact they take a quarterback in the 3rd round and they go get Shedeur in the 5th round, that was wild. The team I'm most disappointed in, though, was Pittsburgh, because I know you drafted a running back and then you also drafted Jack Sawyer too, and you passed on him at 21. Okay, fine, passing on him at 21. Well, what's your plan at quarterback? You're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers for a year, and then you're going to be looking for a quarterback next year? And what, it's a bunch of stopgap options anyway? I would have taken the risk on Shedeur that late in the draft. Also, with the fact that Mike Tomlin knows how to eliminate distractions. He does a pretty good job at that. Just look, Antonio Brown was on his team for all those years, and we didn't hear much negatively about Antonio Brown.
With Aaron Rodgers, I know there were all these things about, you heard all this noise about chemistry and distractions. Well, what's the difference, if you're Pittsburgh, between, Aaron Rodgers and his whatever weird comes out of his brain that day and Shedeur and shiny jewelry? I mean, it's not – I would rather take the rookie that I have a chance to keep
100%.
for longer.
100%. And I'm so sick of Aaron Rodgers. Nothing against Aaron, but at this rate, you should be playing the game to win a Super Bowl. And we know you're not going to get to another Super Bowl. We know you're not going to win another Super Bowl. So I'm kind of done with the Aaron Rodgers stories. He'll go to Pittsburgh. He'll probably win 9-10 games. They'll make the playoffs potentially. And maybe at best they could win a playoff game, but they'll probably lose on Wild Card Weekend, which the Steelers have always done, since their last playoff victory back in the 2016 season. But to me at this point, there's nothing great that's going to come out of the Aaron Rodgers story. So quite frankly, I'm good if he just would walk away and retire. I've had enough of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. And, let new blood come in. Now, if he could all of a sudden have a magical year, who knows? But, man, just let the new blood come in. Cowboys at 12 took Tyler Booker. I know it's been a few days, but they took the Alabama offensive lineman, the guard. They need that. There were thoughts maybe wide receiver McMillan's gone, maybe running back didn't work out with Genty gone. Did they make the right decision?
I have no problem with it, and I feel like I've been in the minority on this, and I know people be like, oh, it's a guard, oh, the Cowboys. And trust me, I love beating up on the Cowboys. I call them the drama Dallas choking Cowboys, but I thought they made a good pick. And also, there's such a misnomer about the Cowboys because for years, they had one of the best offensive lines in the league. The last few years, the offensive line has not played well. They've lost a lot of pieces, whether it's a retirement or guys going elsewhere. So they needed an interior offensive lineman. I got no problem taking an offensive lineman here at 12, a guard with the 12th overall pick. Because like you said, Genty was off the board at that time. Tedaro McMillan was off the board at that time. So what else did Cowboys fans or NFL fans really want the Cowboys to do? Offensive linemen are like starting pitchers. You can never have enough of them. So I'm good. And if he could go on and play for 8 to 10 years in this league, I don't think people are going to look back and be like, oh, that was a bad pick.
I don't think I think the thing fans want is them to help themselves immediately because it's been 29 years. And while that fills an immediate need, maybe helps them immediately, it's not Tedaro McMillan. It's not Ashton Genty. It's not that. So it's not as exciting. And they didn't really do much to address. I mean, Jaden Blue in the 5th round, but they didn't do much to address the playmaker issue that they have.
Sure.
But, they're not aggressive and they have that myth about them.
But that goes more than the draft. The Cowboys last year, we're all in. Yeah, okay. And then this year, we're going to be selectively aggressive. Well, I'm still waiting for them to select when to be aggressive. They've, once again, have botched this offseason. So I get the pick, but they could have addressed this number 2 wide receiver issue before the draft, and they also failed to do so, which is, I think, something we need to bring up.
Well, look, they know 2 ways to get players: draft them or sign them to 1-year deals. That's it. That's all they know. And it's crazy. And they're in a division now that not only has the team who's doing it better than everybody else when it comes to personnel, the Eagles, they have a Washington team that is run by competent human beings and has an elite quarterback for the first time in 2 generations, maybe it feels like. So,
Craig, you hearing that stuff all right? Aren't you a Commanders fan, right? You doing all right?
But all
the way
three
that we're
of these
talking
guys,
about your team? Oh, really? All Commanders fans.
Everybody but me.
Garrett is producing director. He's a Commanders fan. Craig is. We are all right now on cloud 9.
I am a long-suffering Cowboys fan who has to listen. Who has to listen to Stephen Jones say stuff like so-called drought.
Yeah.
It's a drought.
It's not so called.
Put it this way. I was born in 1994. Sorry, Smokey, to make you feel old. I don't ever remember the Cowboys being this all-time great team like they were for all these years. They haven't won a Super Bowl since I've been born, and they have not even been back to an NFC championship game pretty much since I've been born. That's a long time, 30 years.
You were 2 when they beat the Steelers, and that's it. That's it. And you're not going to remember that either.
And let's be real, I probably had crappy takes then, and I was probably a pain in the ass at 2 then as well.
Zach, is there a team that's like, especially a classically bad team that surprised you with not just their early picks, but the whole of their draft?
I actually love what the Browns did, even though it was unconventional. And they took 2 running backs. I like both running backs and Junkins, and then also Dylan Sampson. I thought he was a very underrated player. I would have never thought that I would be praising them for passing on Travis Hunter, but to get a future one and also get Mason Graham, who was my 3rd best player in this draft class. The only 2 players I had in front of him were Abdul Carter 1 and then Travis Hunter 2. I thought that was a really good pick, and I thought Mason Graham had the best individual performance we saw in a single game last year in college football with that great performance up against Ohio State. And then you get, I don't love the Dylan Gabriel pick, but you end up getting Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. And you get the linebacker from UCLA. I thought that the Cleveland Browns, who are always picking to the draft and they never get it right, I thought they did a really good job.
Zach, you saw the note perhaps today. I know Kirk Bowles of the Houston Chronicle used to write for the Austin American-Statesman about Texas and their roster, maybe as high as 35 to 40 million, including the settlement money. How long, if that's the case, is that sustainable?
I have no clue. This NIL stuff, I'm pro NIL. I'm pro transfer portal. I'm pro for player empowerment here, but I have no clue what to believe anymore. You hear a player gets $4 million. Did he really get $4 million? You had the UNLV situation last year, the Nico Iamaleava situation this year. There needs to be some rules. There needs to be some guidelines, but let's be real. You had Coach Peterson, who was on my show. I said, you should be the commissioner of college football. He said, yeah, no way. I don't want to do that. Nick Saban, oh, you should be the commissioner of college football. Yeah, I don't want to do that. We could all sit here and say that we want change, but I don't know how the change is going to go about it. My advice, there should be one transfer portal window, and maybe there should be a limit on how many times you are allowed to transfer. I'm good with giving guys two transfers, and maybe you could have some exceptions in there. But until that stuff gets figured out, I don't think that's coming anytime soon. It's the wild, wild west, and it's the world that we live in, and we all love college football. So let's be real. As we say all the time, we're addicted to college football, so they can do what they want to the product. We'll still watch each and every Saturday and be fired up for it.
Yeah, just a couple of subtle changes that to me make sense. But then again, if they get sued, they lose.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The spring transfer portal window. Do we need this? If you can't figure out that you want to transfer in December, why do you need to get another transfer portal window opens up? And I think that's the rotten part of it is the second transfer portal window.
Yeah, in fact, we had Willie Fritz on yesterday, and he was talking about that. They were, coaches here that maybe there's just be the one that will be in January. Of course, the coaches are not in those meetings, though. It's the presidents, it's the commissioners, maybe ADs, I don't know. And it's like the wrong people who are the ones dealing with the rosters are the ones that have no say in it.
So people not actually making the decisions that are the most instrumental. It sounds like college sports for me for my entire life. It's always backwards.
All right, so now that the draft is over, Kansas City with Mahomes, we know that they're going to be good as long as he is still there. We know what Buffalo's done. We know what, obviously, the defending. And by the way, the Eagles right there in your backyard, Paul texted, he and I texted during the draft, they now seem to just always make the right pick, that everything comes to them, and they just keep compiling great talent.
And it wasn't that long ago that we shredded the Eagles and Howie Roseman for passing up on Justin Jefferson in the draft and DK Metcalf, and he took JJ Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Reagor. It's funny when you win how those things could change rather quickly. But I look at the NFL right now. I'll tell you this. I think 2 teams I'm fascinated by this year, how we're going to be talking about them at the end of the year. The San Francisco 49ers, because I think the Niners are closer to missing the playoffs than going to a Super Bowl again. I ultimately think they'll be a wild card team, but they had to get rid of a lot to go pay a Kittle, to go ultimately give this deal that they'll end up giving to a Brock Purdy that they haven't done yet. And then the Cincinnati Bengals, you got Burrow, you got Chase, you got Higgins. I don't know what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson, but that's a team that had the Triple Crown leader last year, the winner last year, and Jamar Chase. You had Joe Burrow led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Trey Hendrickson led the league in sacks, and they couldn't do anything in terms of making the playoffs. So they can't afford to get off to slow starts. So I'm fascinated by how we're talking about the Bengals at the end of the season and also the San Francisco 49ers because they've been close. They've had their opportunities to get the job done, and they've come up just short.
Zach, what's been the reaction to all the interview with Bill Belichick and his girlfriend? It just seemed like that is headed for a collision that's not good.
How old are you? Just wondering.
66 tomorrow. No, Friday.
66. Like, could we imagine Smokey rolling in with a 23, 24-year-old girl? It's just weird. I'm 30 years old, guys, and I don't even know if I would date a 24-year-old for crying out loud. That's 73 and 24. I understand it's not illegal, but it is bizarre. And Bill Belichick, think about this. He has had to answer questions about Aaron Hernandez murdering someone, right? And now all of a sudden, Bill needs Jordan Hudson. And I'm a Patriot fan. I love Bill Belichick. He needs his girlfriend to be holding his hand in the interview about some puff piece that's going to be on 60 Minutes when everyone knew how they met anyway. Like, what are we doing here? It's Bill, you are better than this. And I saw today that some post, I think this is true, Stephen Belichick's wife is saying, publicists don't act this way, and they don't act like have a temper tantrum. They have to act professional. The whole thing is weird. Bill should be coaching in the NFL. Bill shouldn't be at UNC. You can thank the Falcons for messing that up. But how he's allowing his girlfriend to do this, Bill Belichick, the coach that I know, would never allow these distractions to occur. I'm curious how it's going to play out this year. I hope Bill has success at UNC, but it's bizarre. I think that's the best way to say it. The one word to sum this whole thing up, bizarre.
Look, they say it's undefeated.
He's winning.
I mean,
you know what? She has him by the balls, and his balls may be deflated, honestly.
Yeah.
He did release a statement earlier this afternoon trying to explain everything, that it was supposed to be just about football.
Did she write the statement? Is this actually a statement from Bill? Like, I don't buy that Bill Belichick.
It might be from her.
Yeah.
It might be from her.
It probably is. Or one of his PR people got Bill is the ultimate non-distraction guy. And we're sitting here, Jordan and I met this way. And, I just want people to talk about the positives in my book. Like, what are we doing here? I've had enough with this story, if I'm being honest with you.
Good.
Yeah,
all right.
good.
Well,
yeah.
good. We'll never mention it again either.
CBS, by the way, said no. That's not what the deal was.
Well, those interviews are usually puff piece interviews.
Yeah.
So she must have been that obnoxious that CBS was like, screw her, and how she handled this was so ridiculous. We're going to blast her. Good for CBS. I have no problem with it on CBS's part.
All right, man. Get some a little bit of time down with the draft. I know you're working every day, but what do you look forward to the most next? Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA playoffs. What do you look forward to next?
Yeah, so the NBA playoffs. I'm usually very down on the NBA just because I hate the regular season product. But the fact that they're letting everyone maul one another now, I've thought the NBA playoffs already have been unbelievable. I was at the Knicks game last night. Up against the Pistons, and Stanley Cup hockey is great, but I actually get into college football mode now because we get a taste of all the college football players that just were a part of it with the draft. And this is where I really start to do the deep dive and talk to coaches and talk to players for the build up for the 2026 or 2025 regular season in college football.
I got an email from a media relations guy at UCF on a Scott Frost interview that we'll get. And he was like, we wanted to wait until the end of spring and then the portal closing, but it really is never closed. And now we're waiting for the last few things to shake down. It never ends, but you're right. It's that time to hear from the coaches, players, whoever, and start to look ahead. I can't wait.
And also, I'm going to Vegas tomorrow, so maybe I'll see Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old girlfriend at a pool party. That could be a possibility.
Good luck. I hope so.
Thank you, buddy. Infinity Sports Network, great friend of the show, Zack Gelb, with us on 365 Sports. That story has truly been interesting to watch. I didn't read the statement, so I just wasn't going to go there. It was a little bit hard initially, blurry.
It was really long, first of all, which also means Bill Belichick had nothing to do with it, and two, CBS was like, "No, that's not what we did."
Yeah, I started to believe in the whole call girl theory. Personally, I didn't even consider it. I mean, I should have. That probably should have been the first thing I thought of whenever they first announced they were together. But I just bought the whole plane ride thing, and then you see like how awkward just talking about them meeting, which they had originally put out as just being seated together on a plane, was now like this taboo story that they didn't want to tell. And that's like red flag central. Like, what? Wait, why is that now? I thought y'all were just on a plane and y'all just were sitting in a plane together. And she was like, I remember she was reading a book.
Yeah.
And he made a comment on the book because it was like some very interesting book. And then they just hit it off. Like, I remember that now. That's not what they said on that show. That's like, so yeah, I know a lot of people have made that point. And I don't know. It is all just very sort of strange. I mean, more power to you, pal, I guess, but it is weird.
Well, CBS wanted the interview, knowing what, maybe not this level, but knowing that with him, you just don't know. It's worth the shot at it. It went up in flames.
There was a fantastic, and I'll send it to you, SNL sketch called Meet Your Second Wife. And it was where 3 guys were up on stage and they'd bring out like these younger women constantly. And the last one came up was a girl. It's like, oh, well, that's not too bad. She's not that much younger than me. Like, oh, wait, she's pregnant right now. And her baby will grow up to be your second wife.
Wow.
And that's what I think of every time I see Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson.
Well, yep. Yeah, she was at some awards deal, and she, she's there with him. If they love each other, good for them. By the way, Old Barn Cat, go K-State, Smokey, happy birthday. It's Friday. Thank you very much. How often do you have an age that is the same number? How long do you live to have that happen from 11 to 22 to all the way up to 66? Maybe another one or two?
I mean, you can get to 99.
That would be awesome.
Or 111.
Yeah, that would 111. Yeah, then you break through completely.
Yeah,
that would be pretty cool. All right, when we come back, what do we have next, guys?
The Illinois
we
schedule.
are now through the ACC after Garrett took a month and a half to get that done. We have already done the Big 12 when it comes to schedules for 2025. Illinois is think about this, an 18-team conference. I is the closest at alphabetical order at the top. Illinois. That's next. We'll do that. This is 365 Sports.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
You know, I'm not one of those that's a big fan of cars that make a lot of noise. And so the street racers, those motorcycles that I hear occasionally outside of where I live off the lake in Waco, off Lake Waco. But I'm driving this Dodge Charger, and there was a guy that's a fighter, not a fighter, but he's a pilot that lives in our complex, and he has a Charger. And every morning he'd go start it up, and it was run, and I thought that was just him. It's not. That's the way they start. When you start the car, you have no control over that. It's like, bam, and I'm driving one.
You thought he just got in his car and smashed the gas while he was parking?
I thought it might have been a little bit of that, but no, it's
the
not.
Engine starting.
It's absolutely amazing. Guy's walking his dog in front of me the other day. I went to start it, and his dog, didn't flinch, and he's the one that jumped. But no, it's a very powerful car. Just had one drive right by.
Well, I mean, you're on your way to a scholarship with Georgia football, so congratulations.
I said that. I said that at the dealership. I said, man, I could go play for Georgia football and fit right in, except no talent. All right, it's the Big Ten. 18 teams we're going to go through. Not so much any prognostication or any X's and O's or whatever. A little bit of that. And Craig Smoak with Illinois.
Yeah, here we are now opening the book on the Big Ten. And for those who are just joining us, just taking a look at the schedule and going through every team and the power conferences across the country. So by the end of it, I think you'll have at least I know I have a better grasp on certain teams just by doing this and kind of seeing the lay of the land in the past that they have to take. So it's just fun to look in on some teams, especially that we might not normally talk about all that often. And I think that's the case to some extent today with Illinois, which, yes, is alphabetically the first team in the Big Ten, surprisingly. I don't know if I would have guessed that or not. I guess I would just assume there had to be something in there before you got to I, but I is where we start off. So Illinois last year, 10-3, Brett Bielema, year 4, finished with the 10 wins, 6-3 record in the Big Ten. So pretty good season. Finished only behind Oregon, Penn State, Indiana, and Ohio State when it was all said and done, and did beat South Carolina there in the Citrus Bowl to close out the season, a 21-17 victory. Nice season for Illinois. And now back to it. What would you say the face of the program, Luke Altmaier?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Would have to be, it's just interesting that he's still around because I feel like we watched him about 5 years ago, and we did. So it's just the way college football works nowadays. But, he was at Ole Miss when we saw him. But, it's been a long time from now. So, Illinois, what are they looking at as far as their schedule and trying to get back to 10 wins, trying to maybe finish third or higher in the Big Ten? They open up their campaign on Saturday, August the 30th in Champaign, Illinois at home against Western Illinois. Then on September the 6th, they welcome in non-con Duke. They don't welcome in. They go to their first road trip of the season, week 2, non-con at Duke. So a little Big Ten ACC action there early on. September the 13th, Family Day at Memorial Stadium in Champaign. They will play host to Western Michigan. Then you start to get into the Big Ten schedule before they've had a break at this point. On Saturday, September the 20th, they will travel to Bloomington, Indiana to take on the Hoosiers, who are obviously coming off a big-time playoff appearance last year with a brand-new coach and looking to get back there. Then on Saturday, September the 27th, you have homecoming weekend, and they take on USC there in Champaign. So I'll stop it there because we're still not to a bye week yet, but that's typically where I would take a break. We don't have a break to take, so we've already been through 5 weeks of the season without one. So let's just take a look at the first month, starting on August 30th, rolling through September 27th. Western Illinois at home, at Duke, Western Michigan at home, and then Big Ten play at Indiana versus USC.
All right, I got to be honest with you. And I look at not logos or names, but I'm sitting there going, okay, they don't really have that. Southern Cal, that's going to be a test. And I'm not trying to overlook Duke, but Indiana, I mean, after what they did last year with the coach, Signetti, they got the kid from Cal is their quarterback?
Francisco Mendoza, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, otherwise you'd go, okay, that's not bad, but
two big money like transfer quarterbacks both got big raises. Darian Mensah and Francisco Mendoza in that first month. And this is like, it's weird because if, I think Duke should be pretty good. I don't know about Indiana. USC is, really up for grabs right now. So in that first month, like they could be, especially looking at the schedule, they could wind up being this year's Indiana. They've got a returning quarterback in Luke Altmaier. They've got a really solid defense. They've got good things going for them. Now they lost Pat Bryant, was their excellent wide receiver in the draft, so they're going to have to replace him. But, depending on if they're still good, if everybody else, this is a pretty interesting first month, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. So that is the first month of the season, August 30th, and then the whole month of September. And I just had that note here about the last time they had played USC, first time since 2007. And so that's been a little while since they had met.
Was that a Rose Bowl by any chance? I don't think so, but just
I just had since 2007 there. And yeah, it would have been the Rose Bowl out in California. So that is when they last met. So that'll be the first time since the 2007 Rose Bowl that they play. So back to it. Still no break yet. You've got the month of October starting up with a road trip to West Lafayette to take on the Purdue Boilermakers. And obviously they got Barry Odom in there now. So that ought to be a much improved team, you would think, especially with a handful of games under their belt. Then October the 11th, you will have Hall of Fame weekend at home in Champaign, and you will play host to Ohio State. So that is where we finally get to a point that they will get their first bye week on Saturday, October the 18th. So you play the first 5, and then you keep going. You get the road trip to Purdue, and then the home game against Ohio State, and then you finally take your first breather after, seven games?
Yeah, that's a nice stretch right there. And then we'll get to the rest of this. They don't get much time off at Illinois, but Ohio State, it doesn't matter who else is on their schedule. That's the game that sets up whether or not, and they're not going to be expected to win, probably won't, but that's the one that jumps out.
If they can get through the first half of this schedule relatively unnicked, that's really good. But, Duke, Indiana, USC, and Ohio State, those are 4 games. Ohio State, they're not going to be favored in. USC, who knows? Indiana, who knows by the first month of the season. And Duke, I don't think so because it's on the road, but it'll be a pretty narrow spread. But if they can get on a roll, this could be something special. But again, there's so much to even know about it. This first 6 weeks of the schedules, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a weird combination. I feel like I've had all sorts of random combinations we've talked about, like 2 games and then a bye and then 6 games, and then you close out with, another what would that be? 4 games in a row. Like we've had all sorts of different number combinations. This is a 7-2-3 schedule they have. So 7 straight weeks, bye week, 2 games that I just mentioned there at Purdue and then Ohio State, and then another bye week. So that's how it works out for them. So that'll leave them with 3 games, or excuse me, I don't have that right.
What?
Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then a bye week, and then 2 games, and then a bye week. So
and then 3.
Okay, yeah. I guess
7-2-3. It's like a good defensive front against the run.
Yeah, I guess I
one extra
skipped over a spot there. So so after Ohio State, you get the bye week. It's at Washington on Saturday, October the 25th. And then the following Saturday, and it's all Saturday games for Wisconsin or for Illinois if you haven't picked up on that. But after Ohio State and then the bye, the trip to Washington, and then Rutgers at home on Saturday, November the 1st, and then their second and final bye week. So there's the 7, the bye week, and there's your 2 at Washington and then home against Rutgers. And then after your second and final bye week, your final 3-game stretch, Saturday, November 15th, home against Maryland, then on the road against Wisconsin, and then close things out on November the 29th against Northwestern, some in-state rivalry action there to close out the 2025 regular season slate. And if they are so fortunate, then obviously you got the Big Ten championship the following week in Indianapolis. But got to win a lot of games to get there. So there you go.
It's a tough one to peg.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. It's just
and see, they're not every year, but there's so many times you could look at that schedule and go, that's 8-5 or 8-4. It might be better than that. We don't know because how the transfer portal last year affected Indiana and how it could affect maybe, I don't know, the coaching change at Purdue or what Rutgers or Maryland do. We don't know. That's why it's hard to look at the wins-loss columns. It was hard to do that before the portal. Now it's almost impossible.
Well, they are over under, last I looked, 7.5 wins.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if you look at the schedule, I think that's pretty much how it always works out. I mean, Vegas is on top of their game, so they're pretty dead on with stuff like that. But, whether you choose to go over under on that, I mean, it looks like a pretty manageable schedule, but there's a lot of tough games here. I'd say, I don't even know about Duke in week 2, quite frankly. I don't know what that game looks like on the road. So that one's kind of a question mark, but you should be 2-1 at worst. And then you're going to Indiana. So you're either 3-0 or 2-1 most likely, and it's at Indiana. So Ohio State on here. The teams they do not play, they do miss out on, some named teams that are significant. You don't play Iowa. You don't play Penn State. You don't play Michigan. You don't play Michigan State. You don't play Nebraska. So those are the teams they will be missing out on. Mm-hmm. And I guess they don't have the gimme win against the Huskers. As we all just make fun of our own teams here.
That's a game that you could tell they were going to be no different because that was the overtime game that we went to go watch.
Yeah, but that's who they will miss out on. And obviously I'm just joking about Nebraska. But, they don't play them. They don't play Michigan. Don't play Michigan State, all the teams I just rambled off there. So they do maybe – catch a little bit of a break there, but not much of one because as big as these conferences are, the Big Ten and SEC, I mean, they did add really quality teams, right? So, I mean, maybe with the exception of UCLA, you'd say, but yeah, these new teams. Well, it's Oregon and it's Washington and USC, you can say how good are they really, but it obviously is a brand name. So we'll see. But there's the Illinois schedule for 2025, over under 7.5 wins. A 7-2-3 schedule, no Michigan, no Penn State, no Iowa, no Michigan State, no Nebraska, but you do get Ohio State, Washington, South Carolina, Indiana, et cetera, and a pretty good non-con on the road against Duke. So, there you go.
I think that's a very fair schedule. You've got one alpha. We don't, Washington's another one that 2 years ago would have been an alpha. Sometimes they are. One alpha on their schedule, and that's Ohio State.
Well, I think the other thing, too, is all of their home games of their – was that 7 home games? You do have Ohio State as one of those. And you have USC. And I'm not trying to keep putting USC in that same category as Ohio State. I don't feel that they belong there. I just don't know how good they may or may not be. So let's not give them the rub that they don't necessarily deserve. So with 7 games at home, 6-1 is very doable. So that's the thing about that is all those games at home, you feel like you can beat all of those teams. And then Ohio State's the one where you're I don't know, but that's what college football is for, is to go figure it out on Saturdays. So, I think from that standpoint, they definitely have a nice home slate they could take advantage of. The road's a little bit of a different story.
What is their nickname? The Fighting Illini?
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Always have. I've always liked it.
Loved it so much you forgot it for a second.
No. I was actually asking the question because I love Fighting Illini. I love the fact that that's their nickname. I enjoy it.
It's really hard to remember, Illinois different. And the Illini.
Yeah, I just like the way I like to say Louisville and Illinois. Are just two of my favorite, one city, one state. Unless Louisville becomes a state, Paul, at one point down the road.
I don't think it will. Don't worry.
Yeah, USC is going to be intriguing. I have a feeling because it's been kind of quiet with them that maybe they're getting their stuff together and maybe turn the corner, not as much glitz and glamour.
What, Lincoln Riley's getting stuff together in his office and putting it in packing boxes to take somewhere else after the season?
Put it in the helicopter and fly to wherever he goes next.
If he rattles off at 10-2,
what about it? That'd be really good, yeah.
No, if he rattles off at 10-2, but
would Southern Cal fans be happy? Yes.
Yeah, but would he maybe roll that into okay, now I'm going to go to the NFL?
I guess maybe that'd be such a slime ball thing. So yeah, probably no.
He and Petrino.
I mean, he's a guy who I don't trust I don't trust really any college coach, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, and And the more that they seem trustworthy, even less I trust him, I think. But yeah, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. I don't know how desirable he is in the NFL right now, though. That's the part about it that I don't quite know, where I don't know that anybody really has a good grasp on.
Is he a quarterback whisperer still?
Where is he in terms of the pecking order of up and coming possible NFL head coaches? A couple of years ago, he was right there near the top, we thought. Now a couple of years in LA, I don't know where he is. I don't feel like I hear his name nearly as much now at this point.
No, that's what I said. It's kind of quiet.
Yeah.
It's been kind of quiet. There's not, he gets what he gets. And of course, he took Caleb from Oklahoma with him and high expectations. But I would think that even Lincoln Riley eventually has to look in the mirror and go, damn, I got to fix some things here. And maybe they've done that with a quiet offseason, adding to, I don't have any idea about some of their best additions from what they did in the transfer portal. All right, Andrew. By the way, thank you, Andrew, for being a gentleman. Garrett did not get up at all. Paul kind of did with Coach Hart and his wife, Maxine. It was a deluge, wasn't it, Andrew? Deluge. And luckily, we're able to get them in the car to beat what was a torrential downpour. I feel pretty good, Garrett, now that you turned the air conditioner down. Otherwise, I'd be an icicle. When we come back, we have Paul Catalina and also his top 5.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Ticket Club. Forget the fees, just big savings. Click the link in the description to find out more.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5. Today, Top 5 Cowboys issues post-draft. Number 5, Micah Parsons' contract. Every day it doesn't go by, another pass rusher can get a big deal, and it gets bigger. They just need to get it done. But as we know, the Jones family is terrible at this. They are worse at this than I am at dieting. It is bad. They don't know what they're doing. They just drag it out, and then they'll wind up. They could have done this deal a year ago and saved $20 million, but they didn't. Don't know why. We'll never know how, but they're bad at this. This still looms. Hopefully it gets done quickly. And Micah Parsons is there for workout, so it's not all bad. And a holdout doesn't appear to be impending for Micah Parsons. But even still, just get it done. Number 4, injuries to the secondary. Even third-round draft pick, Siobhan Ravel. He's going to start on PUP. Trayvon Diggs will start on PUP. Kalen Carson, their 4th-round pick a year ago, he was injured most of last year. Deron Bland played the second part of the year healthy, but he was injured early on. They need a healthy secondary. They will not have it to start camp, and they're not sure when Trayvon Diggs is going to be back, and that is bad news. Number 3, a baby-faced O-line. Good news, bad news situation. Good news is you've got Tyler and Cooper and Terrence Steele, and the oldest one is Terrence Steele, and he's 27 or 28. But the bad news is that there's probably going to be some growing pains, although, there's only one rookie on it, but growing together is going to be a tough thing to do. I think it will work out fine for them and better than it has in the last couple of years. But the fact that they are all so young and inexperienced and putting in a new system is a little bit disconcerting for year one. Although if Brian Schottenheimer is any kind of good and his offensive staff is good, I think we'll see dividends pretty early on, but something to be concerned about. Number 2, an alpha running back. It's not Javonte Williams. It's not Miles Sanders. Who knows if it could be Jaden Blue, but he's never really had that role before. Phil Moffitt's a 7th-round pick. Malik Davis is on the roster. Let's just say it. They don't have the guy. If the 2 guys they signed, Sanders and Williams, were the guy, they wouldn't be available for the Cowboys. They need to go get the guy. Now, there are some Breece Hall rumors out there. That would certainly solve their problem for sure if they went out and made a trade for him. But we don't know what they're doing. We don't know if those trades are ever going to do anything or if that's just Jerry talking Jerry talk. Substantive trades have not happened, and we won't be able to talk about them until they do. And number 1, a number 2 wide receiver. Here is number 2 from the Austin Powers films, played by the irrepressible Robert Wagner. My dad once sat next to him at a highlight match, and I heard that story every time I saw Robert Wagner on television my entire youth. That being said, they don't have a number 2 wide receiver. Jonathan Mingo is going to be given every opportunity to win the role. Jalen Tolbert, maybe, but I think we see what he is. The Cowboys have a bunch of number 3 and 4 wide receivers on their roster right now. Now, there's some talk about maybe reuniting with Amari Cooper. I'd be fine with that. Making some other trades. Okay, we'll see when it happens. But right now, in this draft, they did Dak a disservice by not going and getting him that number 2 wide receiver. And apparently the only ones that they liked at all were Ted McMillan and no one else, because they didn't even try in the other rounds of the draft to take a wide receiver. So if they didn't like him, they're not going to take him. And that's fine. You don't have to like everybody, but you can see how they felt about the wide receiver class overall, because through 7 rounds of the draft, not one wide receiver taken. That's going to do it for this top 5. That's going to do it for the show, but Smokey's got to read some polls.
Yeah,
Smokey,
I do.
How are we polling?
The North and South Pole. We will do that. It's cold in both places. And Andrew Valade with a couple of the polls that we do. First of all, is big spending in college football the future or a ticking time bomb? No, this can't last. Basically, that quote from a source with Kirk Bowles, unsustainable. 46% maybe, needs limits. And then, yes, pay the players, unsure, too early to tell. I voted for maybe. Needs limits, because I think that would obviously, we've heard guardrails, whatever, but that's what I voted for. There's 169 votes, and that is how it turned out.
Yeah, it's just so weird, though. Like, I looked at that tweet about Texas and their $35 million roster reportedly, and, like, I don't necessarily buy that, but, like, I don't sit there and not buy it either. Mm-hmm. I don't go, like, but it's so weird. It's like when BYU was front and center because of the Rob Wright pickup, and then when others have gone and picked up guys, and people suddenly go, or like Texas Tech, like there's been a random fan. Most of them are like, yeah, hell yeah, we're going to put it. But then like you'll have the random fan who's like defensive about the money they're spending. So I saw a lot of that with the Texas. Like, no, that's you're reporting wrongly. But it's like, what if they are spending $35 million? It's not like it's illegal. Like, who cares?
No.
I mean, if you are, you are. But
I wish the school I like was able to get that kind of money going.
But it's just going to create the same thing we have in pro sports, where if you're not a Dodgers fan and you like the Padres, you're like, the Padres are spending, but not that much.
But every once in a while, you can still have the money and you'll be the Yankees and not be as good. You'll have your year. It's all about your leadership as much as anything. And that's where Texas has that now, where they've always had the money.
Yeah.
It's just now they've got the guy that knows how to use it properly. And you can also go buy players willy nilly and put together a team pretty quick.
But they have not done it. We talked about this before you got in today, Craig, but they're not, the analogy I used was they're not at the strip club just throwing money on stage, hoping for the best. They do. They have a guy in charge who knows, where there's other schools that are just this sheet of paper tells me this guy is good. Let me go give him $2 million because the other place will give him $1 million and we'll get him here. Yeah. And he may not be a fit.
Yeah, they used to throw money at the pole monkey.
Yeah.
That's what they did for the longest. Okay, now the other one, Paul, in your opinion, and I think after today I'm done with Shedeur, but good stuff here. What hurt Shedeur Sanders' draft stock the most? Was it all of this stuff right here? No agent, he did not have one. Team visits, they didn't always go well, according to the stories. Family factor, the Dion factor, and skipped combine and pro day.
Yeah.
He didn't skip the combine. He didn't work out at the combine, but he's not the first player to ever do that. But he also didn't
sit there and do interviews at the combine either.
I think he did. I don't know if he sat down with those 1 hour.
I think the biggest thing that hurt him is the last one of "we ain't hard to find." Dion tried to reinvent the process, and as innovative as he may thought it was, the NFL disagreed.
Yeah, I mean, when you're sitting there saying, "Well, there's teams we're not going to play for," before he's even
he's
finished
going to
his
one of
season,
those teams too,
and he's sitting there basically acting like he's going to be Archie Manning in this whole situation or something, but even way more over the top. That's what turned a lot of teams off.
Yeah, no question. I think that the fact that he was at the combine, he did some podium stuff. I don't know about how much, but then they had their own pro day. Well, a lot of people did, and that was kind of like putting all of his eggs in that basket. Now, 106 votes, but team visits. That was one you hear. Depends on if you trust the stories. That didn't always go very well. And then the skipping the combine or not working out at the combine.
Matt McTesney's been on the show many times. One of our favorite guests on his podcast said that it wasn't personality, because personality, you have to have a really bad personality for teams to skip on you. Really bad. It was because of the offense they play, he wasn't very good on the whiteboard. So a lot of teams just said, all right, well, you're not going to be our franchise future if you have to start year one, because he's not going to start year one, at least not right away. And so if you're one of the first 20 picks of quarterback, you got to start year one most of the time. Even that being said, I still don't understand the Steelers' plan. The Steelers, who used to be so good at this, are now hedging their bets on a crazy man.
Yeah, Dane Brugler. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. The Steelers still are pretty solid, but their
draft was really good. If you told me they had a quarterback in place, I said the Steelers crushed it in the draft. Derek Harmon's great. They crushed it. Free agency, they signed a safety out of Iowa named Sebastian Castro, who's the Steeleriest Steeler looking dude ever. Jack Sawyer, a defensive end. Tell me that guy's not a Steeler. Getting running backs, all the things that they did. Caleb Johnson. That dude's a Steeler, right? When you look at him, but no quarterback, and you wonder, what
he also wore the same colors in college.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with the Iowa. All right, thank you, Garrett Ross, very, very much. Andrew Valade for the polls and also getting things up, segments that are getting a lot of attention. We appreciate that, hopefully because of the content, the guest, and also what is said. Thanks to Emery Winter. He's already been in touch with us for putting together the lineup for 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the local CW. We're back tomorrow. Paul's out until next Wednesday. Craig Smoak, David Smoak, thank you very much. Have a great night. This is 365 Sports.